Give me a second here. Here comes the network. Hang on. Let me see here. Fuck. Stand by. Here comes freedomslips.com right now.
That's it. That's all it is.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, #1 listener-supported radio, the printing press for freedom at a time when freedom is needed the most.
Right now.
Join me at Revolution Radio, Studio B, at 11 a.m. on Saturday for Free Association, when we take a look at philosophy, spirituality, psychology, social issues, and geopolitics. It's every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. On Studio B at freedomslips.com.
What is going on here? I demand an explanation.
We work for a highly funded yet unofficial government agency.
An intelligence organization that fears intelligence, historically not awesome.
The United States is a democratic nation. Here the people rule. We build no walls to keep them in, nor organize any system of police to keep them mute.
Freedom isn't free at all, but it comes with the highest of costs.
We have you, the listeners, and the hosts at
Revolution Radio,
for allowing us to bring you a platform of free speech.
Right now, it's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, clocks for now. Time's up.
Wind is blowing cold and dark. On the road and no way out. Broken hearts, a smoking gun. On the run. On the run. We're hot. It's Friday night. My name's Jimmy.
There must be some way out of here.
So glad you're here. We made it. We made it. Another week gone. The first week of 2023. Into the microcosm. It's on the yacht.
But none of them along the line know what any of this world.
epic journeyman. Hola.
I'm here.
Excelente. It's good to see you. Watch out for that orange board. Oh!
I'm going to visit this week. Well, next week, actually. I'm getting the kayak, so I'm going to be paddling out past that orange board.
You're getting a kayak, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to get out there and get with the whales. So...
I don't know, man. I saw a guy out here, Santa Cruz. We have a surf museum out here. It's called Steamer Lane, and there's a surf museum out there. And pretty much, it's where they have this weak-ass competition they have, or when there is no waves.
Right.
There's no waves there when they have it in March. There's like no waves. But they're usually small. But occasionally, like right now, I don't know if you've seen the surf here in California, Northern California, Southern California surf, but the waves are huge. Now I've seen a guy who was on those paddles, not a paddle board, but he was in a kayak, and I've seen him get trapped out there. And over here where I live, it's not like Southern California where it's a bunch of sand, and you just go out to the beach. No, it's cliffs and rocks. And so, like, especially where Steamer Lane is, where you go onto the beach is sand, but where you surf is cliff. So once you get caught inside by those cliffs, and when I say inside, that means you're inside where the breakers are. And so every time a set of waves comes in, it smashes you and bashes you and pushes you into the cliffs. And I've seen a guy out there. So is that what you're going to be doing, dude? Kayaking on those big ass?
Well, here in Maui, we have some beaches, so I'm not going to get pinned like that. Now, on the Big Island, that could happen, Big Island, there's like one beach, and then it's like 12 miles to the next beach. So it's all cliffs like you're talking about. So, yeah, that's not a good idea. But no, here in Maui, it should be okay.
Well, so
now the guy's talking me to go on getting a fishing kayak, right? But I'm just trying to get it where I can get out there and dive off and get back in, because I have I'm all geared up now with the scooter and camera and everything to go, free dive with the whale. So hopefully I can do that this year. I missed it last year.
Well, I don't know,
but,
man.
Yeah,
no
kayak pro though.
All this surf talk got me thinking about a band from the 80s, man. And you can't talk about surf without talking about the surf punks. You know what I mean? Remember this one here? My Beach. One of their other hits was Shark Attack. But I'll just go with My Beach for tonight. It's in the microcosm.
My beach, my chicks, my waves, go home.
That's what we say at the beach. We say, go home. But, typically I don't think people really want them to go home, because those people that come over here and throw their trash on the weekends, they basically pay for everything the rest of the week.
Right.
You know what I mean? Those are the times when the businesses make money here at the beach. And I'm sure, when are you not at the beach in Hawaii? Very, very, very rarely. Unless you're in the up country over in Maui or something. But for the most part, everywhere you go, there's a beach, isn't there, Epic?
Yeah, over here in West Maui, it's like, pretty much beachfront property everywhere, right? So even where I'm, it's like the low rent neighborhood, still the beach is less than 100 yards from my house, or my condo actually. But in the surf punks, it cracks me up. That's Gerald Dragon's brother from Captain and Tennille. And and I used to think it was actually him. But I guess it's his brother, actually.
That's funny. Well, their guitars were skateboards. So they made guitars out of skateboards, and they rocked Malibu. I forget what the name of the joint was up in Malibu. There was like one club up there. That's where all these people played up there. You could go in there any given time and find somebody playing, and you might even know who they were. Well, speaking of knowing who they are, it's been a year anniversary today. Basically, it's not to the day, but for the most part, a real good friend of mine passed away, a year ago, Kev Baker. And we did a Kev Baker tribute show earlier. It was a family reunion, so to speak, of people getting together and sharing a little bit about Kev Baker. And so, we were over there, and you could find that over into the Microcosm Jimmy Jean's Strike Zone. It's over there. And if you want to check that out, you can check that out. It's lots of people. Ben Emlyn Jones, Charlie Robinson was there, Kev McCarran, Doc Ram was there, and he went off. Doc Ram went completely off. I might even, because we have a guest here, I'm going to bring her in, and then I may just go over and dig up the Doc Ram segment from the Kev Baker tribute today, because literally, Doc Ram, what happened was Doc Ram started talking about, and that's Dr. Richard Allen Miller, for those of you who don't know. He started to talk about the Michelle Pfifer. You guys know what I'm talking about. And so Naysay was trying to interject and tell him, hey, man, don't say that because we're on YouTube. We don't want to get in trouble. And he couldn't quite hear Naysay, so I jumped in and started to retell him what Naysay was saying. And that's when he just went berserk, man. He's like, I got this degree and that degree. I invented this and that and all this. And he's like, who are they to censor me and all this, man? And it was, it was good.
Nice.
It was good. Well, listen, so a really good friend of mine.
Was he staring at goats, though?
He got into some of that. He's the
guy.
Seriously, he's about to start doing some courses or something over on his website. But listen,
that's the movie's based on, yeah.
A really good friend of mine and a good friend of the show's, and I used to, before I was doing radio and I used to tune into shows, I used to typically tune into the Kev Baker show every day at 2 o'clock Pacific. And I did that for a lot of years, and I mean, before I was on the air, many years, and I used to listen to his show back in the day, and I've been around this stuff for a long time. Okay, so I remember Oracle Broadcasting Network. I remember the Orion Network, which is no longer there. There was another one out of Texas that a lot of people were on for a while too. I can't think of the name of that thing right now, but it doesn't matter. Truth Frequency Radio was on this one network, and then they left, and they went over to Oracle Broadcasting. And then while Oracle was up and running, that's when the Orion Network was going, and that was Kev Baker had a show there. Joe Joseph had a show there. A bunch of broadcasters everybody knows was over there. Eventually that thing closed down, and Kev Baker moved over to TFR. And, he had an hour-long show there, and at the very beginning of that stint at TFR, it was Joe Joseph, or Kev Baker, Joe Joseph, and Popeye. All three in a row every day, Monday through Friday. And that pretty much created a really strong listener base, because at the time, the shows that were going on there were really cutting edge. It's not like it is now today, where, things have been cut and pasted so many times and repeated and regurgitated. It's turned into one giant echo chamber. And, on some level, maybe that's not too bad, but on another level, it really clouds the water in the fish tank, in the fish bowl. So when these shows were going on back in the day, this is before, only really person there was out there at the time was really Alex Jones. And basically anybody that you see now who came along after that was really put there by Alex Jones. I mean, the second biggest broadcaster will be the Health Ranger dude, and he used to be a guy visiting the Alex Jones show. And so, when the Kev Baker show started, this was at the very beginning of everything that's going on now. I mean, he even went to, I think he went to a Bilderberg meeting or something. I can't remember if that was what it was, but there was a whole thing that went on, Chris is over there shaking his head, yes. Yeah, he went to the Bilderberg. But let's bring on, now, the reason I was going to this whole background about the Kev Baker show is because I used to tune in, and our guest tonight used to be a regular visitor to Kev Baker show, and I used to look forward to hearing when Kev Baker would say, Nano Girl was joining in, because that meant she was going to be on there talking about some cutting-edge technology, because she's from or has spent a lot of time working in the Bay Area in the Silicon Valley. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Nano Girl to Into the Microcosm Friday night here on Revolution Radio. How you doing, Nano Girl?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the great intro.
Oh,
and it's nice to be here tonight.
Yeah, fantastic. So we're kind of remembering a little bit about Kev Baker, and I know, like I said, you were back on the show. You were on the show many times for a long time.
Yeah.
A matter of, I think it was years probably, and then, things happen, life goes on and stuff, and so you started to make, regular visits back, doing certain things. But talk a little bit about your relationship with Kevin, how you got started, and how did you even find Kev? It was when Johnny Whistles was on. He had his hour-long show, and it was Kev and Johnny.
Yeah, I think like you, I sort of ran into Kev online, and I really liked him, and I don't know what egged me on. Oh, I know. I think I had started going on different people's shows, and then I had tried to partner with a couple of different people to do shows.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was to do the Middle East, which is completely out of my bailiwick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really good, but it was a good practice. But anyway, so one of the people I partnered with got to know Kev and said, hey, you need to talk to this person. Well, what started all this was one of the rage killings that we've had with the young men, and I started paying attention to it one afternoon, and I saw all these anomalies. Because back in the day, we were looking at all of the things that didn't make sense about these things. How they get on those weird drugs and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, long story short, I got a hold of Kev and I started emailing him and said, hey, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. So he put me on, and then we got on the Geo show, and my internet kept dropping. So this was my first intro to Kev on live, first intro to the Geos. Kev's covering for me. I keep trying to talk, and my internet drops every single time I try to say anything. And it kind of went from there. And then he had me on the show, and then I don't know how I got into all the tech stuff, because that kind of became the thing I did. I think I was on every other Tuesday for a really long time, and started talking about all the stuff that I had gotten into, and I joined the Futurist group, and I had found out about all that stuff and what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and going to some of these symposiums and meetings in Stanford University, and listening to the people who were doing studies and what they were talking about was going to come our way in the future, like brain chips, like having the internet do exactly what it does now, and it reads us. Mm-hmm. and directs our actions, and all of the things that we're seeing now, we started talking about. Well, then once I started doing research for the show, I started learning even more myself, and it just was this plethora of stuff, and the more we dived in, the more there was.
Mm-hmm.
So we started talking about nanotechnology and robotics, and and then Whistles would shoot his gun, and
yeah.
I remember that it was an hour first.
Yeah.
And it was everything I could do to get to fill up an hour, and then Kev's like, hey, we're going to 2 hours. Like, no, I can't talk 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then it was like, now you're going to be on video. No, I can't be on video.
Well, a lot of people on Revolution Radio might not know that I, spent a lot of time on the air with Kev Baker, and I was on TFR with the show for a few years before we came over here. And so I had spent a lot of time on the air with Kev Baker, and most of that time was spent after he went for 2 hours, because at first he was like, Jimmy, he didn't know how he was going to fill 2 hours either. And at the end there, everybody was always after him to go for 2 hours, 2 hours, Kev. So he finally went for it, and at the time Johnny Whistles wasn't doing too good. And so Johnny had stepped away, and Kev was rolling pretty much solo. And so I jumped on with him a few times and spent a lot of time with him on the air. So, it took me, it rocked me, when he passed last year.
Yeah.
And it was right at the same time as the Aftermath network went under, and they changed it to something else. And so they got rid of everybody over there. So it was basically everything all happened all at the same time. And so, you know, it was a rough period. But the thing is, Nano, is that you guys, at the time, the information you were bringing to the table at that time, there was, like I say, no independent media like there is now, where there's a million channels and a million podcasts. So a lot of the information you were bringing to the table was cutting edge. You guys were talking about things that at that time no one even really knew about, and no one was really beating the drum about it because they were all caught up in the Barack Obama, you know, Hillary
Politics.
Clinton. Right. They were caught up in the politics of everything, and you guys were off in a whole other area, which was one of the areas that I really enjoy a lot. We talk a lot about technology on the show. And so, you know, some of those things that you guys talked about back then, now is common language. You know, it's like the word deep state. You know, no one knew the word deep state. Now everybody says it like pass me the salt. And some of the stuff you were talking about, nanotechnology, you guys were talking about all kinds of, you know,
impossible meat, which is a big thing now.
Yeah,
and you know, all the biotech stuff, the robotics, and you know, it to my credit, because sometimes I guess wrong, the first seminar I went to on self-driving cars, I said to the person standing next to me, you know what, eventually we're not going to own a car. We're going to just lease it. We'll either lease it or we'll just, you know, make an appointment and get in the car for 2 hours and then we give it to somebody else. And that I said, we're not going to own this. And I, you know, listening to what they spoke, it's like the more you get into this, the more you look at it, the more you realize which way they're taking it. Do you remember the shows we did about food? And I said they were going to put us on crickets. Do you remember the show I did on crickets and eating crap?
Yeah.
Yep. And here we are.
Here we are.
And so it's like, it doesn't take rocket science. The more you start to look at how and then our economist shows, right? I love those shows. Those are, I have to say, I think out of all the shows, the economist shows, definitely one of my faves.
Me
because
too.
Kev would have such a good time.
Me too. And, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because Epic Journeyman and Nano Girl are going to take a fresh look.
Yes, we are.
Right now, pretty quick here at the new.
Here it is.
She's got the new cover of The Economist right now. And next week, Nano Girl's going to come back with Jules, and she's going to do a detailed, deep dive on the cover. But we thought tonight, for fun, since she's here, and she has the hot item in her hand, that her and Epic Journeyman might take just a quick, fresh look at the cover of The Economist, because what Nano and Kev Baker put forward many years ago is that the cover of The Economist predicts the future. But here's the thing. This is the part that sends it spinning, is because the secret to the cover isn't the fact that it tells the future, because it does, and it's proven. You can go back and look at some of the ones. Maybe you could even pull up one that you did do and point out some of the things that you talked about. But the thing is, here's where it separates the men from the boys, is knowing how many years in the future it's predicting. Now, we had come up with a number, Epic Journeyman and I, we had looked at a couple of them, and we thought it was around 7 years, or between 3 and 7 years in the future. Do you remember what we came up with, Epic? I don't remember how many years.
It ended up coming down to down to 3.
3.
So 3 years. So if you look at the 2017 cover, which is really the one that got this thing rolling, that is a phenomenal cover. It really is. The tarot cards.
Right.
All that stuff's true now. The only one that's missing is the tidal wave going through New York. Right. Everything else has already happened, and it's 3 years basically. It started happening in 2020, including the people didn't know at the time. We thought it was kids on Mars. It was the Michelle Pfifer. It was the virus, right? So the last panel on the red planet isn't a red planet; it's a spike protein. When you see it now, you know what it is. But back then, we didn't know.
Yeah, for sure. So, Dr. Kevin McCarran has joined us, and hey, Doc, what's happening?
How's it going, bro?
How's it going?
How's it going? Epic Journey, man.
Yeah.
Hi, bro.
Good hearing you.
Yeah. So, Nano Girl's here, and we were just talking. We were talking a little bit about Kev, But these guys are going to take a quick look at the Economist cover, the newest Economist. If you want to take a look at that,
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, you
right
can.
there.
You can pull it up on the internet also for yourselves at home, if you want to take a look. So, Nano, so right off the bat, I mean, you got the thing. What does it come in, a brown paper? I mean, when it
Actually,
comes.
yes, it does. I did order it.
Okay, so it comes.
I don't. I'm not living by a bookstore that carries The Economist.
So
it's going to be a very rare place that you can pick it up. If usually in a city,
So you went
they'll
down.
carry The Economist because it's a pretty popular magazine.
You went down to the mailbox. You opened it up. You see a brown paper in there, and you go running back in the house. The new Economist is here. The new Economist is here. Nobody knows why she's so excited, and the reason why is because, like we say, the cover tells the future, ladies and gentlemen. Nano Girl, what did you see when you pulled back the brown paper?
So you can see. Okay, so the first thing I started looking at is that it occurred to me. Well, obviously Putin's in the middle.
Pappy
right?
Putin, please.
Hang on a second. I'm going to try to get her. Do you see her?
I do.
Okay.
It's Pappy Putin, his proper title.
Yeah, Pappy.
Not Putin.
Okay. Yeah.
Pappy Putin, please.
Yeah, no worries.
And then you've got Biden, and then you've got the Prime Minister, right, of Taiwan. And I hope I don't say Tsai Ing-wen. Right?
Chi from China. Yep.
Yeah, and then you've got Xi Jinping, of course. And then I had to go find the blonde. This was Giorgiana Meloni from Italy.
So the Italian Prime Minister.
Yeah,
yeah,
right. And then Zelensky.
Mussolini's protege, basically, her father. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that I didn't know. That's good information. Okay, so the other thing you notice is obviously Putin's in the middle, but the other thing is I thought, this looks like a clock. Right?
It does.
So, yep. And then, so she looks like she's at about 1 o'clock. Biden looks like he's at 2 or 3. He's in the middle. Zelensky's at like 5 o'clock. And looks like she's at 7. And then Xi Jinping is at 11. So if this is true, is this going to be how we're going to see these guys affect things? But based on the clock, if we go clockwise.
That's cool because that's inside NC. I want to make a point of not looking at it till you were here. I looked at it for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And what I noticed was that the more I looked at it, the more detailed I looked at it, the more there was to it. It's like one of those paintings you look at and you start seeing more mini pictures inside the painting, right? And there's more things. And so I didn't get the clock thing. What's interesting is that the robot arm is at noon, right? The robot's at noon.
Yeah.
Or it's at midnight. So the robot's the end of this clock, if you're going that way, is from that to the fascism with Mussolini in the war with patriots, and then the compound, which is biological, right? With the it's a structure, molecular structure with Zelensky.
You've got drones by
the
Putin.
Future energy, right? Yeah,
right?
Because
Putin's in trouble because he's buying the drones from Iran, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's being very effective with his drones. Whoever's making them for him.
So the first two things I noticed was that initially it was a digital overlay, so it's a digital overlay, everything's blocked, and then you have everything hexagonal a lot, as much as it can be, which is like how war games are played, like Avalon Hill war games and things like that. They're all hexagonal grids for these kind of things. And then you start looking, you notice in the background that there's these things that look like dominoes. They're like dominoes. Each one's a domino. Those dots and everything are dominoes, but they're colored. They're white and they're red. And then I realized, the more I looked at it again, it's like, you know what that is? That's an algorithm. Those are the AI chains. That's how they link to each other, right? That's a process through which how they all link to each other. So it's AI in a way, but also it looks like a virus, right, from the background.
Yes.
We just pull back and you look at it like a little blob. That's spike protein again. Yeah. It's a pretty good cover, man. I mean, just all those things all at once without looking at the detail of each panel, and then you can get into the panel of each thing. But just that 3 overlays on top of each other, making one big picture is just this is like looking at a pixelated character from an old 80s video arcade in the way, and then when you pull yourself back, it looks like a good graphic. But when you get close in, you see what it's made of and what it's comprised of, and it's all these these specific things that.
Yeah.
So I started paying attention to lines. Did you get into that at all? Like how the lines tie to each other?
I wanted
the
to
white
throw
lines and
something
red
out there
lines?
before you get into the lines that also, depending on where you buy the magazine, so this is the USA version. In another version, these two are switched.
Which two?
Biden and the Italian Prime Minister.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a
depending
trip.
on which magazine. I think the one in the UK, these two are switched. And I'm wondering what the significance is of that.
There's a time.
Well, I would just say this: they can't put a British leader on there. They change so quickly at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, that's true.
Well, hey, isn't there a time difference? The time difference between, say,
the UK
what?
and the USA.
2:00 and Italy, over there. Maybe that's flipped because the time is different. But I don't know.
I thought it was, but they didn't flip anybody else.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, Epic. I just wanted to throw that out. Okay, keep going because you were on a roll. Keep going, Epic. It's black and red, which I'm always kind of cautious about those colors together. Those are not great colors together. I mean, energetically speaking, it's kind of a darkness in my opinion. This isn't a happy color.
No.
Jimmy's off to change his hat and.
I'm
sorry. But you know what I'm saying.
I got a red
You know
hat.
what I'm saying.
We're
doing
my
predictions,
red.
so I'm just throwing out colors. And also, I'm used to doing marketing. Like I've been in marketing groups and stuff, and usually use bright colors. Use red, blue, white, yellow, green. Those kinds of colors mean something. This isn't usually colors that you use to sell products, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, again, this is pretty much a lot of the prediction that's going on. The other thing that I've learned doing the Economist show year after year is all of these pictures, these are all going to be part of the articles, which I haven't read yet. So, that's going to be part of my prep.
So now, is this a Chinese red? Because I see hints
it looks like
I see hints of yellow there behind Biden. Is that a yellow and red?
No, it's definitely black and red. I don't see any yellow in this at all.
Not right below his arm, where his arm is folded. There's like a yellow kind of coming out from behind his arm. No.
No, that's it. Actually, it's two different shades. Like if you look at, it's red, and then it's kind of a pinkish color.
Oh, I see.
It's not really white.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, right. I was talking while this was going on. I realized I was muted.
Oh, sorry.
So no, it's okay though. I'm glad because you're pointing out some good things. And the thing that really interesting when you brought up the clock thing, I want to stay on that a little bit, is the 2:00 thing with the leader of Italy, who's has some Mussolini ties. She's the only one actually pointing her hands at the 2:00 directly, like that's kind of important. And directly underneath her it's a slide of blood cells, right, Doc? That's what those are with the Patriots pointed straight to them, like so. In other words, like
it looks like it. Yeah,
absolutely, it does. So that is a very strange connection. Like it's one of the few ones on here that is absolutely deliberate. There's no question that Patriot missile battery is pointing directly at that blood cell. What does that mean? And then with the fascist, which is these fascist colors. That was the point I was trying to make when I was muted. These are black and red. These are fascist colors. This is the SS, right? And if you look at this really carefully, not carefully, but if you want to just look at the angles, it's a swastika.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're the second one. Jules pointed that out. My buddy Jules. She pointed out the swastika.
Yeah.
Yep, that she nailed it. So that's two of you. That's a confirmation.
Damn! Look at that! Look at you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Good job.
So I think maybe it's time that we won't it's not in depth. We don't mean it to be, but
right.
I think the clock thing is really interesting because the hand thing to me is a confirmation of that. So the hand thing being at 2:00 and her pointing that direction, like pointing off the grid, like everything else is interior. She's pointing away, right? She's deflecting away at 2:00. I mean, at midnight, it's the robots. I mean, I worked at that robot arm right there. Ironically, I've worked on that robot, so I went to school.
Get out of here!
Oh wow, nice.
I
not that
had to fix
specific
the
robot.
kids.
I mean that model. Yeah.
What did you say, Doc? Doc, what did you say?
I had to fix the kids' trampoline. There's a robot that wants to come and do that. I'll take one.
Right.
I'll tell you what, man. Nano Girl thought one of those robots was cute. What was the robot you liked, Nano Girl? That robot back in
Oh
the
my
day.
God, I'm gonna have to think of it. The
Pepper or
cute one
something
from
like that?
Japan.
Yeah, it was some.
Not
Oh,
Pepper,
the little
something
Honda,
like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Asimov. Is it that what it's
Yeah,
something
Oh my
like that?
God.
It ends in purr, right? Something pur.
All I'm
I
saying
know what
is,
you're talking about.
ladies,
Yeah.
I can't believe I can't remember because I used to talk about it all the time.
ladies,
I'll
Is
think of
that
it.
Asimov, something like that.
yeah,
but
ladies and
look,
men.
the Japanese are trying real hard because they've got an aging population, and
Right.
they need to. They don't want round eye gaijin coming in and taking all the prime real estate spots. So
I heard that I saw a thing yesterday that said the Japanese government was offering people $7,700 to move out of the city and to move into the suburbs out of Tokyo.
There's programs like that here. I mean, there are vacant houses that you can move into if you're gonna, if you can gel with, the locals that are left. But for sure, there's a top-heavy population in demographic in Japan.
Well, and let me ask you this, without naming it specifically, but with the current worldwide experiment that's going on, I saw a statistic, and I didn't verify it. I just saw it, and it said that miscarriages of people that had Michelle Pfifer themselves were up by 85%.
Yeah, that figure is in contention right now, and it's essentially people that have removed themselves from the study rather than, so it's ambiguous right now. So what's her name, Wolf?
Yeah, Naomi Wolf.
Naomi Wolf.
Yeah,
it goes around touting that figure, and the problem is it makes you look ill-informed. There's another individual called Thomas Renz who's going around talking about something called the DMED. It's the data for military's defense medical database.
Right.
And basically it looks like there's this huge ramping up of cases that have required or had adverse events that would fit into the category of adverse events that we're seeing emerge. But the problem is that there are that he's interpreting the data wrong. So for anyone that wants a proper breakdown of what the data is, I would follow Matthew Crawford. Rounding the Earth, his Substack. He's the one that sort of initially broke that story. And what they did initially was basically they counted multiple repetitions of the single patient going in and just basically summed them, and that basically makes it look way worse. But what happened is then that they've come in and whoever's got their hands on these databases have then tried to normalize it, and that looks screwed up as well. So there's a definite increase in the military or serving members that are pushing the statistical limits that you would expect with year on year with multiple conditions.
So I didn't give you a proper intro. Dr. Kevin McCarran's here. He has been on this thing since the very beginning, and some of what he's brought to the table is proven to be relevant and real over time. And if you're not familiar with him, you can go over to the McCarrandojo.com, right?
Yep, that's right.
McCarrandojo.com if you're really interested in finding out.
Rumble is where I'm streaming now. Rumble has been a pretty stable platform for getting streams out and them not taking them down for talking about this topic. YouTube is just it's a no-go zone. They'll strike me midstream and stuff. So we were talking earlier, Jimmy, just about just how censorious it had become, and the I'm not, and essentially that we now know, right, because of Elon Musk. Whatever you think of him personally, what he's done with Twitter is he's shown that there's this revolving door between these media companies and these security agencies. Now, pick your alphabet flavor. They're all in on it, and this current warfare is psychological right now, or it's hybrid warfare, and it's going to be a hot conflict in Ukraine. It's military grade psychological operations being driven into the heart of global population, those that are first world countries, you could argue second world countries as well. And the data just keeps coming out that the DoD are releasing these medical countermeasures, and they're basically palming them off to the drug companies, and this has all the elements of a military operation from start to where we are currently. And so, I don't think it's any accident what we're seeing in Ukraine right now. I don't think it's any accident that we know that there are biological laboratories in Ukraine that they're trying to cover the tracks of, and people need to switch on to what's actually happening around them, because the problem with these complex systems is they're sort of metastable till they're not, and then boom, you're suddenly in a new state. And but we could be looking at the sort of precipice of that right now if we take a long enough sort of timeline and try not to get too
there's a lot of people out here, that want to do the right thing and educate the people in around through podcasting and doing different radio shows. But one of the things is that a lot of this shit is sensationalized to the point of being literally ridiculous. Hey man, don't drink the water, there's snake venom in it. This guy, this Stu Peters guy, and I'm bringing him up.
I know.
I'm bringing him up specifically because there was this whole line of thinking, calling out these hydras and all this bullshit. And when you were on the Stu Peters show, you weren't going along with the conspiracy theory. You were trying to tell him, "Hey man, listen. These vials are contaminated. There's things in here that don't belong in here. It's the impurities of the concoction were enough to get it thrown out. You didn't need to go in there creating scary monsters that were floating around inside the concoction." And so that just makes it even worse, because you have people that are making crazy claims being put right next to actual doctors who know what the F they're talking about.
Yeah, and it's been disturbing how you've seen the sensationalist side be amplified. Well, again, what we know now is these are hostile psychological operations aimed at you. And the problem is that the U.S. military industrial science complex, medicine as well, we can throw in there as well, I guess, are planning how they would respond in these or this environment. And their thing is, we've got to deal with like misinformation. But I would argue that they're seeding this misinformation in, and they're getting boosted algorithmically to allow for this wiggle room, right, where people will flock to. You're going to have the normalcy distribution, right, and most of the population under normal times would sort of sit there, but they know that they've only got so much window in which to operate at a mission level, and so they have to create the chaff, as it were, before scientists like myself come along and say, well, hang on a minute, it's not you shouldn't be worrying about fiber optic hydras in these shots. It's enough to worry about the toxic just the biochemistry of itself.
Yeah.
The lipid nanoparticle, the gene transfection technologies that they've put in there with respect to the genetic material. Let's just say that. Are we on YouTube?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. Michelle Pfifer.
Okay.
Michelle Pfifer is how we...
I just got to point out, fiber optic hydras is a great term.
Well, I mean, the thing is though, is that the ridiculousness of it and the popularity of individuals purporting it and promoting it is going to be the same group of people get pointed at, okay, when they say, look at these ridiculous fools over here saying that, you know, purple people eater ejaculated in here and there's hydras floating around. Because you don't need to say that. Because it's provable that there's impurities right there. Why don't you just get the impurities be the reason that nobody gets to have it, and have that be the end of it? Why do you got to make a sensational? It's sensational enough as it is. How many? Let me ask you this. You might not know. Let me just ask everybody on the panel, but I'm asking the doc directly. How many people died from the swine flu, Michelle Pfifer? And how quickly after that amount of people died did they take that thing off the market?
It was double digit. I want to say around 20, and it was within weeks to months.
20 out of how many people? Not very many.
I mean, compared to what we've seen right now, no.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's number one. Number two, I just saw a study. I heard a talk from someone from the FAA. The FAA's regulations are that pilots need to visit Michelle Pfifer only after she's been on vacation for a year and didn't die. If Michelle Pfifer went on vacation for a year and she didn't die, then the FAA could direct those pilots to ingest that Michelle Pfifer. But they required it before it had been vetted for a year. So already it's illegal. So we saw Southwest basically collapse a couple of weeks ago with some of the adverse reactions that are going on across the planet. Key people are disappearing from key positions. We saw a very suspect NFL player drop on the field. He's still alive, but I would say if there was any kind of way to make somebody come back alive, and there's a technology that could do it, they probably put him in one of those med beds everybody's talking about, because that's the only way he's coming back.
I don't believe in the med beds.
Yeah, me neither. Don't say that.
I'm still waiting.
Yeah, we're gonna get in trouble. I mean, we had one of the listeners call in a couple weeks ago. We're just having a conversation, and they brought something up, and then the next day I got a hassle from YouTube saying that I was giving out medical information or whatever. All we were doing was having a simple conversation. So simple conversations can end up costing you over here on YouTube. Just because. I mean.
Well, there'll be someone put this in the Discord. I think my Discord. They'll be banning the word suddenly soon enough.
Yeah.
And the problem is that that's from Stu Peters. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's really.
Can I say something about him too before we move on from him? Because I suspect we might. And I've mentioned it before, but I'm so convinced of it now, man. He pulled a Jussie Smollett, man. That guy pulled a Jussie. He actually swatted himself to promote that film. I'm convinced of it. Now, there's a bit on Bill Maher called.
I would not doubt it, because we did.
It was the bit's called "I Can't Prove It's True, I Just Know." Right? That's my boat.
Well,
I can't prove it's true.
I'll tell you what, Rio ran reverse speech on him on the very show that Doc McCarran was on. And he said some interesting things about the devil being in the closet, and I can't remember specifically, but there was definitely some money, some gifting of some kind going on with him. And he was definitely talking about the beast in the closet, whatever that meant. So we don't know, but here's the thing is,
It
man,
might be because he's gay.
you don't bust your...
Secretly gay.
There's people who've been busting their ass in the independent media for a long time. They got a lot of personality, and personality goes a long way. But they don't just explode on the scene all of a sudden, and being put up there in the same arena as Alex Jones and the Health Ranger, saying there's 3 broadcasters. You know, the Health Ranger, Alex Jones, and this other turd. You know, I'm not real sure what he's doing or whatever. I mean, I heard him say the other day, and I only heard it because someone was playing a clip on a show I was listening to. And I was thinking to myself, why do people keep promoting this fool? I keep hearing his clips everywhere. I heard this dude actually say that he spent $100,000 on that video that he made, and he put it out there for free. Really, dude? It costs $100,000 to make a documentary? Yeah, show me the receipts, homeboy. Put that shit up on the screen for everybody to see. I don't think so. But anyway, it's not a bashing, smashing, and crashing on old Stu Peters. But you know, the thing about it is when it's going to be just like, which I can't say, it's a gate, all right, and it originated in Italy. So anyways, I can't say them right next to each other, but it's a gate, and it rhymes with Itza. That's Itza Gate. You know what I mean? But anyway.
She's that supermodel from Lithuania, right?
Yeah. Well, so a lot of people took the bait on that, and then that very issue was then turned around on everybody who mentioned it in public and used to railroad those people.
Yeah.
All right, same thing. What do we see with Alex Jones right now? Same exact thing. So everybody was out talking about Sandy Hook. Well, now you can be railroaded in court for something that you said because you supposedly hurt someone's feelings. How do you measure feelings? I don't know. Maybe a scale from
apparently by billions of dollars.
There you go. Doc McCarran, McCarranDojo.com is where you can find him. Chris, I see you over there. I muted you, though. You'll have to unmute. So, Chris, what's going on the website now? You've been working. I know Independent Broadcast Network is on the air.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so there's a player on intothemicrocosm.com, and then the website is independentbroadcastnetwork.com, right? Is that right?
With independent-broadcasting
network. Yeah.
Independentbroadcastingnetwork.com.
Yeah.
There's a hyphen in there.
And then, we're coming to you also from Revolution Radio, fully listener supported. So come on down, become a supporter for the station. There's 2 studios, Studio A, Studio B, and the Hawk's Nest. 3 studios, 7 days a week, ladies and gentlemen, 24 hours a day. Become a helpful supporter over there at revolution.radio. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, the website for IBM is independent-broadcasting.com. And then, of course, intothemicrocosm.com.
Right.
Then we also have, we're going to be doing some affiliations with We Talk, You Listen, the Doc's show from the day prior. We don't know, the Doc is very fluid in the time that he has to stream. So what I've done is I've created a time slot at on the show at 11 a.m. Pacific, all the way to 4 p.m. Pacific. And in that time slot, we will be putting in the Doc show from the day prior. Like if he streams on Sunday night, well, on Monday at 11 a.m., you're going to hear that show at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time in America.
There you go. Well, listen, so we're just getting started over there. We're starting slow. We got Quite Frankly on every day at 4 p.m. Pacific over there.
Yeah, he's live every day at 4 Pacific.
Yeah.
And also, I replay the shows on his stuff at 9 a.m. Pacific. The following day, there'll be a replay.
Right on. So, Chris, thanks a lot for everything you've been doing over there. The website looks great. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't gone over there, intothemicrocosm.com, just head on over. Nano Girl, are you doing anything that you need to let people know where they can find it, or are you just going to be here next week, and then from there, we'll see? Because I know you and Jules may be doing something. We're going to see. But you're definitely going to be here next week.
I'm going to invite her. I know she's on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So this would be 12 to 3 in the morning.
Well,
and
maybe
she does work. So I don't know, but I definitely would invite her. We're not putting shows together. We're kind of working. We're having fun together, doing different things. So I definitely will let her know your ideas.
Well,
and I'll definitely think about it for myself as well. So I'm not doing anything at the moment.
Well, are you working in the Silicon Valley, or are you?
I am.
Yeah.
I am working at a company that had a huge layoff this week. Surprise!
no. Are you still?
Which I wasn't surprised, by the way.
Are you still there?
Doesn't run it, does he?
You still there?
Yes, I'm still there.
There you go. You made the cut.
I'm consulting, so I guess they didn't hit us, but I think if I'm doing predictions, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. We saw a lot of it before Christmas, and I think we're going to see more of it.
Me too. All right, listen, stay right where you are. We're going to be right back after a couple-minute break, and then we'll see everybody here. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, TalkStream Live, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Strike Zone on YouTube, bunch of people in the chat room, Matrix chat room over at Revolution Radio. I don't have my iPad Matrix chat room, so I can't see you, but I know you're there. I'll try to get over there. It's in the microcosm. We'll be right back.
Never had no need for any military aid, and I never took charge of the life brigade. I got no castle to defend or attack, but still I seem to be picking up slack. I am the captain of this body of mine. I sent fear into the enemy lines, on the ground, in the air, or at sea. They're all pointing a finger at me.
We're going to find out what the doc is up to, because I think he's up to something. He's always up to something, ladies and gentlemen. Doc McCarran Dojo. Doc!
Vaping, dude.
We'll be
It's
right
my
back.
new favorite hobby.
Yeah. We'll be right back.
I'm at war with the world. That's the way it must be. Gonna fight while I can to put an end to this misery. I'm at war with the world. I'll have
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message.
Hey everyone, it's Barbara Jean Lindsay, the Cosmic Oracle. If you have questions about your past lives or future plans, need answers from the cosmos about your love life or career, or just want to keep your finger on the pulse of the planet, check out my show, The Cosmic Oracle, here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
Don't miss the Crypt Rick and Jonathan Show every Saturday, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Studio B, right here at Revolution Radio.
The journey begins to fun, health, and freedom.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal, ancient cultures and structures, monatomic elements, longevity, fantastic discoveries in science, downloaded to your brain, then tune in to us. Hi, I'm Dave. And I'm Mackie. And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There have been imaginative science fiction writers for generations.
Be evasive.
But that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth as opposed to fiction.
I'm aware of some archaeologists that have uncovered large bones indicating giants in Virginia. Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, indicating that there were giants before the Nephilim.
And sons of God, plural. They weren't talking about Jesus coming down and
No, that's right. Yeah.
I'm Steve Crawford. Join me every Thursday night in Studio A at 6 p.m. Eastern for Factor Theory Live. Find us on www.revolution.radio. Great guests and great stories.
What do you believe?
Join me at Revolution Radio, Studio B, at 11 a.m. on Saturday for Free Association, when we take a look at philosophy, spirituality, psychology, social issues, and geopolitics. It's every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Studio B at freedomslips.com.
I want to thank everybody for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the one place where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio.
All right, let's show them what we got.
All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
I think that's the future. You're on mute. You're on mute, Jimmy.
It's Friday night. Mom's Jimmy. It's Revolution Radio. Dr. Kevin McCarran, Nano Girl, Bruce McDonald, Epic Journeyman. Hour number 2.
White punks on dope. Mom and Dad moved to Hollywood. Hang myself when I get enough rope.
Can't clean up, though I know I should. White punks on dope. Bury a band, the Tubes. Man, I don't know. It's Friday night. Doc McCarran. Now, someone over here in the chat, Nano Girl, Chris, Epic Journeyman, the chat room is bristling with activity, Doc. And someone asked me, Ducati Cat asked me to ask you, what are you up to? Ducati Cat was suggesting there may be some scientific testing going on over in your laboratory. Now, let me just say, I want to give some people the background on this because a lot of people might not know here on Revolution Radio. They might not have heard you. Now they've heard some people parading through here, and these are people that if I mention the names, you would have something to say. But I'm not going to go there right now because I want to point at something that you did, which was you actually tested the concoction. Because you were able to acquire some actual samples that were delivered to you, which you opened up on the air, okay, and showed the concoction coming straight out of the box. And then you applied the concoction to your own blood to see what would happen. And you broadcast everything live, so there's no shilling going on. There's no nothing going on. And it looks like you might have something else coming up. But why don't you detail a little bit about what you found when you actually applied your personal blood to the concoction?
Well, a number of things. And, we did this a year ago, more than a year ago.
Yeah.
Way before... Del Bigtree and what's the other guy's name? The pathologist, Dr. Ryan Cole. And we found that there was a loss of the red color from the red blood cells. Red blood cells are the color they are because of the protein that binds oxygen, and there's a difference between oxygenated and arterial versus venous blood, and what we saw is that if you pull blood out of a vein, it'll oxygenate very quickly because it's in the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at it under the microscope, exposed it to we did Pfizer.
Michelle Pfifer.
Michelle Pfifer, sorry.
Yeah, Michelle Pfifer.
And what we saw was that there was a loss of the red color that makes blood striking.
Was it so? So essentially, are you saying that it sucked the oxygen?
Well, I think that there would have been some change to the protein itself. So remember, these are lipid nanoparticles. They'll go into any cell, right? It's just going to get past the cell membrane, and once in there, they probably just interact because of the charge that they have. These are technically called cations, positively charged, and once in there, it just messes with the iron is the metal that's bound by heme, and it transitions between oxidative states, Fe2 plus or Fe3 plus, depending on if it's sort of carrying an oxygen or not. And if you put in a charged molecule, you're likely to mess with that ability to hold the iron in place. I think that's probably the most likely explanation. And one of the other things that we saw was that the blood would clump and aggregate. And that's the very definition of a clot.
Mm-hmm.
This happened within seconds of exposure to the
concoction. The concoction.
Yeah, the concoction.
Uh-huh.
And we saw it with other brands, I guess, for want of a better expression.
Right.
And but why did I do this? Well, basically the reason was that I tried to. Well, we had the Stu Peters phenomenon of pushing hydras and very.
Right. You're right. So this is the thing is that the hydra thing, all it does is make it seem extreme and crazy when you don't have to get crazy, because you can see what's going on with what you're doing right here on the slides on the video. And you can see, and this is now, let me correct me if I'm wrong, but is this now when you found these impurities in the concoction? That
Yeah,
and let me just point out to the people here in America that, in case they don't know, there was a big problem in Japan with impurities in general around this whole thing. And so now they've launched an investigation into the impurities, which was what you were trying to bring to the table over a year ago to help some of this nonsense get squashed.
Yeah, so the impurities that we were seeing and others had reported as well. So again, there's a number of individuals and groups that I could point at, went straight to that we're looking at graphene, and you can't tell that through looking through an optical microscope. Now, yes, I saw the same types of crystalline structures, and so it was incumbent upon me to do the proper science and find out exactly what those structures were. And what we found the techniques that you use are different forms of interferometry and spectrometry, and I took them to the lab and ran those tests, and what we found was that those inclusions, we found metal contaminant, which is what the Japanese had found. And the metal is unsurprising in my mind just because of the scale at which these products have been rolled out, right? We're talking billions.
Well, don't they use aluminum sometimes in the past? Haven't they used aluminum as an adjuvant for these types?
Not in these. That's an old school or previous generation adjuvant, much equivalent to sort of the mercury thimerosal. It's in there to irritate the body so that the immune system will come in and sort of be activated around where these foreign peptides are, and the theory being that it'll respond better to those proteins subunits or inactivated viruses that you put in. So we found some metal contaminant, but that's nothing. I would say it's nothing unusual, and probably if we looked at the spec sheets and the quality control measures that are in place for most pharmaceuticals, it's probably within sort of tolerance levels for what they would expect at such a massive scale of production, especially one rolled out so quickly.
At warp speed.
Right. The speed of science, bro.
Yeah.
And so what we showed was that these crystalline forms were fats and lipids, cholesterol in particular. And I think there was another group, which was the Spanish Cinque and they claimed that they'd done the same techniques and found the signature for graphene. But I would say this to anyone that's listening: you have to see step by step every bit of the experiment, and you have to see positive controls, which means they have to show you graphene in a solubilizable form, what it looks like when you put it under a scope. And so there was nothing in there that I would say was indicative of nano bots and hydras again.
Well, I mean, the thing is, a lot of people suffer from something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is they're smart enough to understand some of the information, but they're not smart enough to know that they don't know all the information.
It's QAnon.
So yeah,
it's totally QAnon, dude.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
Right. You have guys running around repeating words in broadcasts that if you were to press them on it and ask them to define it, they probably wouldn't be able to. But they hear people saying things and they go and repeat it. And so it's the crazy talk that causes the seriousness of what people like yourself and others have been saying. Now, you guys, I haven't asked you this because we haven't talked very long recently. So I haven't asked you this. Now you and another doctor have brought a case to the Hague court. Is that and a lot of those had gotten thrown out, but yours seemed to linger and hang around for a while. Is that still there?
Good question. I signed my affidavit, handed it off, and I haven't heard anything back. I did that with Luc Montagnier. He's the Nobel Prize winner who co-discoverer of HIV, and
that was another thing that you brought up over a year ago, was the fact that there seemed to be something with this current situation that resembled some of the symptoms of that HIV situation.
So when looking at the molecular backbone of SARS and the spike protein in particular, there was a number of features which jumped out at researchers, and I'm indebted to those that sort of paved the way before me, but it was published is the wrong word, but it was deposited on a preprint server from an Indian group, Pradhan Natal, that there were inserts in the spike protein that shouldn't be there, that are the title of the paper is Uncanny Similarity of HIV Inserts in SARS-CoV-2. And these inserts, along with another little piece of code which forms part of the furin cleavage site, are completely outside the scope of the family tree, the phylogeny of the sub-echo viruses, and they look like very specific engineered inserts, because when you look at them, not only do you have to get an insert in, so you have, if you think in like one dimension, right, where you'll see like nucleotides, so A, G, T, C, and then they get translated, and then you get the amino acids, and there's like sort of
well, you know what this, I mean, hearing you explain it like this almost sounds like the concoction is a pre-planned obsolescence. In other words, if I'm a company that makes most of my revenue from people taking stuff, then if I had some sort of insert in there that had a planned obsolescence for how long someone was going to stay healthy, because their system has been degraded and it's not as robust as it used to be. Is there some sort of if someone had visited Michelle Pfifer and invited themselves into the experiment with the concoction, what's going on with people as a result? Now, are they more susceptible to other types of illnesses and this type of thing? Because I seem to see quite a few people in the hospital, all over the place, and I don't see anybody on the news crowing about it. Because to me, if it was a strictly from the past 2 years, they would try to scare people with how many people are in the hospital, making you go out and put something covering over your face and this and that and the other thing. But for some reason, they're staying quiet about all these hospitals being full. Doc, now are people's immune systems collapsing as a result of some of the concoctions that have been put out there, would you say?
Well, that's the $1 million question right now. And look, the disease itself is known to cause a condition called lymphocytopenia, which is loss of your white blood cells. And potentially it's a property of these loops, which, like I say, the insert that we're looking at is, you can't just think of it as like a row of letters. It folds up, right, and makes a functional shape, right, that enables it to operate at the sort of atomic scale. And the position of these inserts are positioned right at the sort of hooks, if you like, of the spike protein, and they will attach themselves to white blood cells. Now, I would say this for anyone that's listening to me for the first time, that spike protein delivered via infection route versus injecting it into a muscle molecularly is essentially equivalent. And so we don't know the, well, that's wrong to say we don't know, but there's a high probability that you will see in some people a impact on your immune system. Now, how that manifests is it's an ongoing question. There's a recent work that's just come out in December. It was published in Science, where what they've shown is that continued exposure to the spike protein causes what's called class switching in your antibodies, right? So you want to make usually IG1 and IG3 type antibodies, and these are antibodies that will stick to the pathogen or just protein that's foreign, and signal to the immune system, hey, there's something going on here, please come and tidy up, right? And usually that involves killing a bunch of cells and forming scar tissue, etc.
Mm-hmm.
In this current environment, what they've found is that there's a switch to a change in the ratio, and there's this upregulation of something called IgG4. Now, IgG4 is associated with when you get exposed to irritants or allergens, right? So when you feel itchy because of pollen in the air, what happens is that these IgG4 antibodies will bind to that allergen, and then what they do is they actually dampen down the immune response. So we're theoretically, we're in a position where those who have been exposed multiple times have this class switching phenomenon occur on top of the initial molecular interactions of these HIV-like sequences which target white blood cells, and the spike protein has been found in like I say white blood cells in particular, and so now we're sort of seeing two prong like assaults on the one system that stops you sort of decaying on a moment by moment basis because of the world is a sharp and pointy, dangerous place, right? And you need to keep on top of the bugs and parasites and all other types of joys from nature that make it such a glory to
I saw something yesterday, and I found it to be extremely interesting. And what it was an ad on YouTube for a device that you put in your mouth and breathe in with it, and how somehow it vibrates the phlegm on the walls of your lungs, so the phlegm comes off and you suck in more oxygen. The reason I'm bringing it up is because I never in a million years even considered that about this situation with people's lungs, and how for example, let's say there was a weather modification operation in effect, and they were, let's say for example, hypothetically, they were spraying these particles in the air.
Cloud seeding, you mean?
Yeah, cloud seeding, exactly. And so what happens is, as a result, the human being ingests this and breathes it in. And like I remember about 5-6 years ago, all of a sudden I started seeing this ads for this stuff because mucus had moved in It moved into the chest and it wouldn't move out. It was like setting up house. There was a couch and the mucus was sitting on the couch drinking a beer, watching football. And it was this new drug that you could buy to get the mucus out of your chest. And when I saw this ad the other day, it dawned on me, and I thought back to what's happened over the past couple of years, Doc, which is there's been people struggling to breathe. People can't breathe. They can't suck in oxygen. It's going into their lungs, but it's not going into their bloodstream. Is there any correlation between the concoction and the intake of oxygen through the cells, through the blood cells?
Yeah, so we're getting deep into the pathological mechanisms of the spike protein, but people need to understand SARS not as a respiratory, like a flu or a cold. Okay, it's a disseminated, meaning widespread, systemic coagulopathy, which means that it causes microclots all over your circulation. And, in somewhere like the lungs or the brain, where you're required to have very, very fine capillary beds, so the small blood vessels, it's easy not easy, the knock-on consequence of exposure leads to the clotting cascades. Now, what we've come to understand with the spike protein is that the clotting cascades induced by the spike protein don't fit the normal pathways that we associate with, like when your granny got a blood clot, or you got a clot on the brain or something in your lungs. They're very, very different to the types of clots that we see associated with the spike protein. And these clots that we're seeing are what we call amyloidogenic. And these are fibrinogen resistant, meaning that they don't break down with the normal mechanisms that the body uses to disperse clots after they're not needed, right? Because you need clots. If you don't have clotting factors, you'll scratch yourself on a thorn bush and you'll bleed out. So there's a delicate balance that needs to be struck. So how does it relate to the oxygen transfer? Well, it's just if the single red blood cells, they have to sort of go in single file to pick up oxygen and deliver oxygen in the lungs and the brain, for example. They're the most complex and fine blood vessels that you have through the body. And if the blood cells cannot move, they can't pick up oxygen, and so they can't carry it. And then that's why people, or what they think is causes what they call happy hypoxia. So people don't realize that they're struggling for oxygen.
Yeah.
So that their oxygen will go down to sort of 90, 85, 80, and in the classical pneumonia, people are sort of beginning to panic at that stage because they feel that they're not getting
you're breathing
air.
in and out. Now, I'm in telecommunications, and a lot of times we do underground stuff. And so one of the things that happens when you do underground is people don't realize that there's air that doesn't have oxygen in it. It's called dead air. You can breathe dead air for a couple of minutes and then you just pass out and die. You don't even know what happened to you. You don't even know what happened. So the thing is, struggling for oxygen is something that's been talked about over and over with a lot of people. People that have ended up in the hospital. They've ended up being intubated with respirators in all these extreme circumstances, and this is one of the scariest things in the world is not being able to breathe.
Yeah.
So, and to think that you are breathing and you have no idea that the internal body is not getting the oxygen it needs for you to continue, and then you pass out. Now listen. Bruce McDonald is here. He joined us. Nano Girl's here. Epic Journeyman's here. Now, I want to bring you guys in because I know you have questions for the doc. But what I wanted to ask you first, Epic Journeyman, is now you're literally right now. I don't know if you're still off work, but you tested positive for the Michelle Pfifer affliction
for almost 2 weeks. Yeah.
And before this, though, you did have an episode where you felt as though you couldn't breathe. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So for the people who don't know, I can tell you, this is ironic actually, because the person I caught it from was a Trump staffer, most likely, who was visiting the Big Island back in 2019. Yeah, I met her at the hotel there in Waikoloa, and we were talking, and she was going on vacation and stuff, right? And and she was hacking the whole time. And this is back right about the time they discovered something going on in China, but they didn't know what it was yet. And it's right before Veterans Day.
Uh-huh.
So what happened was, come that weekend, which we have that weekend off at the company I work with, I couldn't breathe at all. I mean, I literally couldn't breathe. And if I laid down, don't ever lay down. By the way, if you think that you have this kind of problem, do not lay down. Right, keep elevated in your head. Right. So I have like 105 fever, 105, this ridiculous fever, and I end up walking over to the there's a fire station in Waikoloa across from where I lived at the time, and I walked over because I didn't believe the two thermometers I had. I was like, I can't have 105 fever, I'd be dead, right? So I walk over there. No, it's real. I'm like, well, should you ambulance me to the urgent care or the hospital or what?
Yeah.
Well, if you can make it, you should probably drive if you can while you can. I'm like, okay. So I drove over there, and it turned out when I got there that the doctors were all off because they had a hangover or something, basically, because it was Labor Day, and they had all these nurses like put me on. It wasn't a ventilator, like proper ventilator rebreather kind of thing, but they put me on the gave me oxygen, and gave me all this like asthma medication and stuff. They didn't know what it was. I just had a super high fever, and they X-rayed it. I didn't have pneumonia like they thought maybe I did, and I didn't know what it was. And they sent me home with this emergency inhaler, and I really did think I might not. It's the only time. There's times I felt like I was going to die because I had food poisoning so bad, where you wanted to die, right? It's so terrible and miserable. But
gasping
no,
for air.
This is the only time I really thought I might not make it.
Yeah, man.
I really thought that I may not make it through this.
Yeah.
Because and I'm sure that's what it is now. There's no question that's what it was. And it would have been the first one. And then, ironically, my coworker, when I moved out to Maui shortly thereafter, I was visiting, still coming from the Big Island at the time. His wife works at the school there in Lahaina, right? And we went to an event where we were with the emergency responders for the island, because I'm in a critical infrastructure thing. So, but just before they know what it is, right? And this cruise ship is in port, and he starts talking to the cruise ship people. That cruise ship ends up being the very same cruise ship that gets quarantined later. They wouldn't let into San Francisco and to Oakland. It's that cruise ship.
Yeah.
He got it. He ended up being one of the first 50 people that got it. It was verified.
Well, I'll just say this: they have a law that's been in place since they had ships that went across the sea. If you've got sick people on your ship, you're supposed to park way out. You're not even supposed to come anywhere near a port because of what happened with the Spanish flu. You're supposed to stay X amount of miles out, and you're supposed to toss the bodies overboard. You're not supposed to bring the bodies in.
Chinese started that,
That's the law, man.
It was 3 months. You had to stay. You couldn't leave the ship for 3 months in China.
There you go.
Back in the day,
that's what I'm saying.
That whole story, how that came from. That's where it comes from.
So what's with the pulling the ships and releasing everybody out to free range off here in the Bay Area? I didn't find that to be too cool.
Off in Hawaii, right?
No,
Maui to get music.
But I'll tell you,
I didn't get sick from that one.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you, I'm flashing back on a couple of weird things. Like I brought it up with the doc earlier. Like people forget all the shit that's gone on since this whole thing has started. And at the very beginning of this whole thing, and that's where I first heard the doc, was on the Kev Baker show. And the doc, Kev Baker and the doc were having a conversation because at the time, there's stuff going on, man. And people were spitting on door handles, and young people were spitting on the fruit in the stores, and there's all this weird stuff going on, and people were acting weird. And the doc's specialty, Doc, your specialty is Tourette's, is it not?
Yeah, corticobasal ganglia disorders, Tourette's, Parkinson's, neurodegenerative disorders,
and so
surgical intervention.
So you had noticed something in the beginning, and that's sort of what kind of sparked your interest about the whole thing. No, is that how it happened?
Well, one was I had a run-in with it in Korea in the November, December. And that's nearly, I didn't think I was going to get through that. And so I was recovering over the Christmas period. I didn't have a Christmas at all that year. I was just too ill. And then we have word that, something's going on in China. And then we find that the city I was visiting, it's called Daegu in South Korea, was one of the, it was the primary outbreak center in South Korea, and they were shuttling backwards and forwards between Wuhan. It was a religious cult that was the Typhoid Mary, the 21st century equivalent of Typhoid Marys, hundreds and thousands of them. And this religious group would just make a point of, even if you were ill, you had to do sort of community meals, and it's really sort of dodgy. So I was already, I sort of perked up and was watching very, very closely what was going on. I had a suspicion that what we were dealing with wasn't in the normal clinical range that you would expect for seasonal influenza. And then we started seeing video after video of people spitting or engaging in all kinds of sort of
odd behavior.
Yeah, what's technically called impulse control disorders, and there are well understood, but we're beginning to sort of map the brain to enough detail where we understand the networks involved that can drive these behaviors. And one of the primary ingress routes is into the hippocampal regions, and these are part of the extended basal ganglia. And if smell is one of your primary senses, and it there's a reason why they say you can smell fear, etc. Your olfactory sense is a sort of, it enables you to see behind you, etc. Right, because you can catch odor without sort of having to look at it. And so these networks are very susceptible to perturbation. If you have a virus go in there, or the brain starts swelling in these regions, then you can expect to see expressions of behavior. And I was seeing a lot of that, especially early on. Aeroplanes was a big one, because of the pressurized cabin. If people are sort of familiar with the pressure you feel on your ears, right, that's basically coming all over your skull, right? And the air in your brain the air in your nasal cavities is pushing onto your brain as well. So that all of that is compressing. So you would see people flipping out, etc. Add in the pressure of masks and people having to take on board a whole bunch of instructions which Westerners are not very good at anyway. And we see we see this rolling cascade of these disorders emerge, and so there was a bunch of predictions that would sort of come out from that, and we saw violent crime skyrocketing as the pandemic started. Don't let them gaslight you about Michelle Pfizer being what you want to choose for not having a car accident. Road accidents shot up, and these are all indicators to me that there's a problem with the brain's ability to control, reflexive type behaviors. And so this was sort of, all these things started to line up, and so I was one of the first credentialed scientists speaking publicly out again and saying that this probably has a lab origin, and we need to tread very, very carefully. And we can, first suspicion falls on the Chinese, but as we've come to learn, the programs that were involved were very much funded by Western intelligence infrastructure, for want of a better expression, that were very much focused on biological warfare. These programs have been in place, especially after 9/11. They'd been given a blank check, essentially, to be conducting research that, had it been under more public purview, I don't think it would have taken place. And then what happened as pressure mounted in places like the US and Europe, there was this propensity to offshore research to not black sites, but ambiguous sites in countries like China, like Georgia, like Ukraine. And as we pulled on this thread, we started to just see emerge out of the murky depths all the fingerprints of what looked like weapons research gone awry, right? And here we are 3 years later, and it's 3 years now, and we're in a situation where we have 10 to 20% excess deaths. There's more people dying now than there were in the first year of the pandemic, and they say they don't know why. Well,
you know what's funny is the people that were spitting on the doorknobs and spitting on the vegetables at the grocery store, they turned out to be the same people guilting you about killing grandma if you didn't go down and take the concoction and visit with Michelle Pfifer, which is so funny because they were purposely trying to kill grandma and grandpa because they were the people being affected by this situation that we found ourselves in. This is Into the Microcosm. We're here with Dr. Kevin McCarran. Bruce McDonald's here. Epic Journeyman's here. Chris, the web maestro, is over there. And Nano Girl's here. Bruce McDonald, welcome in. We see you had some internet issues earlier, and so I'm sorry that we got started ahead of time here without you. But did you have some questions for the doc? Because I know...
No.
No?
No.
What about you?
I already know too much. I'm already frightened.
Too much.
I don't want to know anymore from
Well,
Doc.
hey,
I really don't.
Yeah.
Ignorance is better at this stage for a guy like me, Jimmy.
I want to talk about that too. We'll talk about this for a bit more, and then after the top of the hour, what I want to do is talk about the current events and current politics that's going on, and some of the things that are happening, because I think there's a lot of things happening, and we haven't had a chance to talk with them. And that Doc McCarran's here now. Listen, I heard a rumor. Everybody knows, everyone has heard the name Dr. Malone. Okay, this name has been passed around.
Great basketball player.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Now, this name has been passed around as a potential replacement for Fauci, is what I've heard, these rumors. Now, I heard a rumor, and I can't verify it, and I'm talking to you now. You, on your show the other day, were busting Malone's balls on the air.
Wow, I wouldn't say.
And he sent you an email in the middle of the ball busting. Is that true?
No, it wasn't Robert Malone. And no, I don't know which.
All right. Well, I just want to make sure. Because the rumors, they fly. You got to verify.
It wasn't Robert Malone. And look, I'll say this about Robert Malone. He's saying the right things right now. I would. My own personal position is just he is, by very definition of the nature of his work, involved in these programs, these defense programs. And I wonder if they'd managed to convince people that the current pandemic and everything that's been the consequence of it was purely down to Chinese eating habits and wet markets. would we have ever heard of Robert Malone? And so in this information warfare type space, I'm trying to work out if he's a white hat, black hat, grey hat. And for the moment, he seems to be firing in the right direction from my perspective. I'm not going to there are bigger targets right now to be engaging.
So you got a question, Doc, from the chat room, Net Effect over in the Matrix chat room. they brought up something, and I'll bring it up with you right now just because maybe you can put an end to some of the speculation that goes on about this. Net Effect over in the Matrix chat at Revolution Radio asks, does 5G have any effect on any of this, or what is your feeling on that? And I mean, I know. Let us know, what do you think? What do you think about that?
I wouldn't dismiss it 100%, but I would say it's low down on the actionable items that we have to deal with. Right now, the primary weapons being deployed against you is a toxic biology, either through exposure via crowds or however you'll pick up a pathogen. The binary component of a bioweapons package, I would say, which includes the concoctions, and the two potentially mixed together there's this operational space in these biowarfare programs where people think that this should just be illegal. There's not. There's this very big gray zone of what's called incapacitating agents. And when you can induce chronic illness in people, that technically you haven't breached any of the conventions. You've incapacitated them. Now, take 100,000 people and spray them in the face with pepper spray. Some of them are going to die, right, just from the shock of it.
Right.
But technically, it's an incapacitating agent and legal. And
well, let me point something out to you, Net Effect, about 5G. And like when you want to question it and you want to question 5G, you got to ask yourself, what is the G? Why are you asking about 5G? Because every single cell phone carrier in the world operates at a different frequency. So the base frequency of the operator is owned by that company. So your AT&T is on one frequency, your Verizon's on another. So when someone says 5G means fifth generation. So it's the fifth generation of transmission of a particular type of signal. And so the problem with the blanket 5G idea is that you would have to know specifically at what frequency is being transmitted at 5G. Different frequencies in the human being have different effects. So when you're happy, that puts out a frequency. When you're mad, that puts out a frequency. So on and so forth. When you're sleeping, this and that. And so while I'm not saying that wireless is good or safe, what I am saying is that the 5G that a lot of people are talking about, in my personal professional opinion, which I can give, the 5G that I'm talking about and that they're talking about is the 5 gigahertz internet signal. This signal has got to be prevalent everywhere in order for IP cell phone systems to work similar to what Google offers. So what happened was all these cable carriers, they came in and they changed out everybody's modems. Everybody used to have 2.4 gigahertz, which is the same frequency as transmitted in your microwave oven to cook a chicken, because it excites the water molecules and makes them bang up against each other and they get hot. Just like when you got your 2.4 gigahertz wireless phone at your house up against your head. Just like when you leave your routers on 2.4 gigahertz, you're blasting everything with microwave radiation. Okay, so now they came in and they said, you know what, we're going to give you a new modem, Doc McCarran, you deserve a new modem. Here's a new one. It broadcasts on 2 frequencies. You get 2.4, and as an extra added bonus, you get 5G. Now, I've told this story before. I got a new modem. I didn't want the 5G. I didn't want the 5 gigahertz on my thing. And before I took the modem from the cable company, I said, I don't want that one because I don't want that other 5G. I have my own router. I don't want that. And she said, well, you can take it off of there. we could take it off. Once you install it and then bring it in the house, we can take it off. And I said, okay, great. So I bring it home, I hook it up. I go, okay. I call him up. I say, okay, let's take this off now. I got the 5, I want to take the 5 gigahertz off. So she goes, okay, fine. She took it off. So now I can't see it on my computer when I'm searching for wireless networks. It's not there anymore. But they didn't know I had a spectrum analyzer. See? And so what I did was I turned on my spectrum analyzer, and I'm still seeing 5G. Well, the thing was, they didn't turn it off. They just made it so I can't see it. But that's the thing about wireless, is that it's invisible. Can you excite molecules in a nanoparticulate with a certain frequency? I would say the answer to that is yes. Whether or not it's in this particular concoction and that's what's going on, that I can't say. I can say that I've seen some very interesting ideas around IP addresses and the concoction. And I find it interesting in the sense that when they ask you if you partook in the experiment and visited Michelle Pfifer and you lie and say no, that they can go over the top of you with something and go boo, 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 and they can tell. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But here's the thing: when they get this vaccine passport that they're talking about, now they're talking about this, ladies and gentlemen, and we're all over here in America thinking everything's a-okay. It's just about over. The mandates are going to come away, and we're going to go back to the way things were. But MIT says things are never going back to normal. Never. And so, what is that going to mean in the future? How can you tell if I really took it or I didn't? Is there some sort of little something in there that I can read with my special device? I mean, in the middle of this pandemic, the Department of Defense said that they were installing sniffers that could sniff you from 100 feet away. Tell what temperature you got, if you got this, if you got that, because there was some new thing coming around that they wanted to make sure that it didn't come in. And they were announcing right out in the open with everybody that they had scanners that were actually scanning your breath as you're walking down the airport ramp. So, I mean, where are we at this point?
I would say to people right now, you brought it up. The primary thing to be worried about is the push for legislation that would allow for something like a vaccine passport. The handing over of sovereignty to transnational organizations, which is being done as we speak with the World Health Organization and other such nerdy world groups. If you're thinking at the extremes all the time, you might just miss the freight train coming right at you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be more inclined to deal with that. They want you thinking about nanobots and 5G, because then it allows them to walk this other legislation through, and they could just say, "Wow, see, these people are you can't take them seriously. They've got no credibility." And that's part of the psychological operations that have been unleashed on people, and all the hydras and
the sovereignty of your body is an interesting thing that you bring up, Bruce McDonald, because Bruce is from Canada, and there's been a lot of legislation going forward right now about this prepared suicide, and the reason that I'm bringing that to the table right now is because the sovereignty of your own body starts with this thing that happened 2 years ago, and the government mandating that they can say you have to do something. 2 years ago, we brought up that, hey, it's only a matter of time before they tell you when you're going to die, too. They take control of your body. Now, Bruce, what the hell's going on in Canada with all this suicide legislation that's happening? We got about 4 minutes before the break.
Very quickly, it started with a law in 2016 that I thought was very balanced and appropriate. I think that if you have a sort of absolute certitude of death within 12 weeks, and there's nothing but pain and cost for the hospital and utility of a hospice or a hospital bed, then euthanasia is a legitimate option if you've gotten your second and third opinion. And when it came in, I was saying, yeah, that's pretty progressive. I actually agree with that, and but they've slowly ramped it up. About every 6 months for the last 6 years, they've made additions to this legislation. So let's just go right to the end because I don't have a lot of time. The Canadian government has now produced coloring books for elementary school children that introduces them to euthanasia and assisted suicide and how feelings of depression and wanting to give up your life is okay. There have also been a number of stories that have come into the media that are quite shocking. There was a debilitated female vet who was in Afghanistan with the Canadian Forces. She's in a wheelchair. She has a full life. She's absolutely happy. She petitioned Veterans Affairs for money to create a ramp in her house, and they offered her euthanasia. That's one example. Okay? And
Yeah,
I'm hearing these stories all the time.
Just kill yourself instead of putting a ramp up to your house. It's too much hassle. Listen, what?
So you don't want to die?
Listen.
It's like, it's like the McDonald's drive-thru. Would you like to supersize that? Would you like to die?
Hey, man, shoving cricket burgers down your throat while you own nothing and love it is not very appealing. So I can understand why some people don't have the cognitive ability to discern what's going on in life because they're only 10 years old. I can imagine they think there is no future. You can't even make coffee at Starbucks anymore. It's only a matter of time before it's all robots. All right, listen. We're coming up on the top of the hour, and I don't believe there's a break at this top of the hour. So when we get to the top, I'm going to take a musical break here. I'll play a few songs, let everybody grab something and wet their whistle. How do you guys feel about opening up the phones here at the top of the hour? I'll open them up, and only in that I make the stipulation that if you're going to mention it, you call it the Michelle Pfifer, and you call it the concoction. Otherwise, you're going to give me problems. I don't need any extra problems. Believe me, every time the doc comes on, I got to wear my bulletproof vest when I go outside, because he's dropping the truth bombs up in here. So yeah, look that up. Dunning-Kruger effect. It's an interesting look at the psychology of the human being. And I'm going to say this. How many shows did we do about Universe 25, Doc? I made you talk about it at least 3 or 4 times. All of a sudden, here comes the health ranger on a show breaking off everybody about Universe 25. And now it's all new information because it went over there on the Jones Network. Mine's Jimmy. It's into the microcosm every Friday night right here on Revolution Radio. FreedomSlips.com. Listener supported, 12 years and running. The house that Nighthawk built. I'm going to take a top of the hour break. Enjoy the music. Get something to drink. We'll open up the phones. Top of the hour. Send the microcosm.com. Revolution Radio. Hey, what's up, TalkStream Live? We're here with Doc McCarran, Bruce McDonald, MAC MacDonald, Nano Girl, the Web Maestro, and the Epic Journeyman. Taking a quick top of the hour music break. Here's the Stereo MCs. Connected.
I'm gonna get myself connected. I ain't gonna go blind with the light which is reflected. See through you, see through you, I see through you, I see through you. Your dirty tricks, you make me sick. I see through you, gonna do it again. Gotta do.
Broken lines and broken strings, broken threads and broken springs, broken arrows and broken heads, people sleeping in broken beds. Ain't no news of diving, ain't no news of joking. Everything is broken. Broken bottles and broken plates, broken switches and broken gates, broken dishes, broken pots, streets of fear with broken hearts, broken words never meant to be spoken. Everything is broken. Something else just hit the ground. Broken cutters and broken saws, broken buckles and broken laws.
Alright, let's get this thing moving.
This is R.L. Burnside. Someday, baby.
Don't care how long you go, how long you stay. Hey, good time treatment, bring it home one day. But someday, baby, you ain't gonna trouble for me anymore.
Good, bad girl, better get close, get gone. Had a great time, got me pretty good. Had a good thing, but we got more than you gave. God damn it, now give it to your girl.
Every Friday night, right here, you'll find us 9 Pacific, 12 midnight on the East Coast. Messages are coming in. Can't see what they say, but I'm sure they say something. Yeah. So, listen. We're here with Doc McCarran, Bruce McDonald, Epic Journeyman, Nano Girl. You gotta get in here, Nano Girl. George Thorogood will be right. Give me one more second there, Bruce. About 2 more minutes, we'll be right back. Hey, Rio, are you coming on, man? Let me get Rio in here. I see him lurking in the chat room. George Thorogood, mini concert. Hey man, the worker shortage is so bad that now long-haired, freaky people may apply. They need people, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get a haircut. Get a real job.
My parents taught me what life was about, so I grew up the type they warned me about. They said my friends were just an unruly mob, and I should get a haircut and get a real job. Get a haircut and get a real job.
Man, if you've never seen George Thorogood live, I definitely, if you see him coming, definitely do that before he dies off. I saw him the other day. He looks like a lesbian, like an old lesbian.
Oh no!
Yeah, he's just chubby. He's like chubby. He's got this haircut. He just looks like an old.
He's wearing like a plaid shirt.
Have you seen? have you seen that picture? There's a picture of Mickey Rourke and Axl Rose, And somebody
Yeah.
somebody put a meme out there. It looks like two older lesbians. You seen that, man?
Yeah.
What happened to? I mean, what are they doing? Are they injecting shit in their face? I mean, what the f is going on?
They might be Botoxing. They might. I was going to say something cool about George Thorogood. So I was saying the cool thing about George Thorogood. Him and Steve Ray Vaughan play electric guitar with 14 gauge E strings. That's how they get their sound.
Uh-huh.
So it's like an acoustic, like a medium acoustic grade E string. Rio was here; he could elaborate some. That's really hard to do.
Yeah,
so to get the bends they do with that is freaking awesome. So yeah, it's good. It's good. So I'd rather remember for that to be the lesbian actually.
Well, I don't know, man. All I know is Mickey Rourke. When I used to live down in Los Angeles, I used to see Mickey Rourke quite a bit at some of the places that I used to hang out at. I'm going to tell you, man, that was one hard drinking MFer, man. That dude was constantly drunk. And I mean, I don't know if he was doing research for his upcoming role in Barfly, but I do know this, man. That was one hard partying motherfucker. And I'm going to just say this. I don't know how the guy's still alive.
I told you guys the story about the guy I worked with who fought him in the ring, right?
No.
Our listeners
Yeah,
remember.
he was doing that boxing thing for a while.
Yeah,
right?
no, I worked with the guy who fought him.
Get out of here.
Yeah, Helix Electric in Las Vegas.
Bruce,
and so, yeah, I'll tell the story. I don't want to tell it now, but I'll tell the story.
Before you tell it, let me just ask you, Bruce, would you get, because I know you're a boxer. So would you get
I grew up boxing, yeah.
Right, would you get in the ring with Mickey Rourke back in the day when he was boxing? Because I mean, I don't know how to take
box, Jimmy. I would Jimmy, I'm 5'7" and I'm about 170 pounds now. For me to box, I couldn't box beyond 139. And that would be pushing it. It would be ideal if I would get down to 129 and do flyweight. You can't have an ounce of fat on your body to box until you get to heavyweight, and then you can go full George Foreman, right?
Yeah. Well,
but Mickey Rourke's way outside my weight class, man, and he can actually box. He started when he was a kid, and he's got a lot of heart, right? And that's what gets you through those long weeks of training, man. It's all heart.
You got heart, kid.
Yeah, he does. He does. Don't laugh at the dude, man. He's got a lot of heart.
He does have heart.
He did. I think he sold his soul to the devil now. But,
I know. I mean, anybody who will do what was the name of that movie? Something in the Marlboro Man. It was like him and
Harley Davidson, the Marlboro Man.
Yeah.
And I think Bruce was alluding to Angel Heart there. Yeah, but yeah,
that was
totally.
a tough. Yeah, no, he's a good dude, man. I don't have a problem with him at all. But I will say, like I was saying earlier, he's one of those people, man. He did get used up when he was young and good looking. You know what I mean? And so, he made how to cut a deal, like Bill Hicks said.
Yeah.
There's some people who have to cut deals, they have to lay across the table, as it were, and have Satan visit their hiney, as it were.
So,
and I'm not saying it happens or it doesn't happen, but what I am saying is sometimes, brother's got to do what he's got to do, Bruce, if they want to make it in the business. But many people
like
before him.
Baldwin.
There used, there used to be a gas.
We don't know anything about.
You come back to this quite a bit, and I feel you're on the verge of a confession.
No, I'm just saying there used to be a gas station over near Laurel Canyon, and for some reason it had an unusually robust workforce of young, good-looking male figures. And the rumor is that you would go to this guy if you were working in the movie industry. You knew about this particular gas station, and you'd show up there, and you'd go and get a lube job. You'd show up to get your tank full, and while they were cleaning the windows, you'd go around back, and there'd be these young actors that would service.
Right.
And a lot of these actors ended up being superstars, as it were. It's rumored that James Dean worked at that gas station. I think Marlon Brando might have put in a few hours there. I don't know exactly.
Stop, Jimmy. Stop.
The list.
Gotta take it.
The list goes on.
Okay,
But
I don't want to hear this shit, man. Like, I don't even know why you go down this path. I really don't. You need a therapist.
Well, is that intentional to go down part?
Hey, can I
I'm
say,
just trying to
epic, give me 5 seconds. Is there something wrong with my mic? Can I not be heard?
Sorry. No,
Okay.
you're good, Bruce.
No, we can't
I
hear
gotta,
you.
I gotta backstep some shit talk I did last week, and I gotta correct myself here. Okay.
Okay.
ChatGPT is amazing.
I knew it.
And okay.
I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to say anything.
You can say you can write the question, hey, write me a procedure for an end-to-end link loss test according to the TF530C standard. Okay? And it will write a perfect procedure. I have just pretty much done 3 months worth of work in a week for a telecommunications client. And I think this thing is going to put tech writers out of business, but not really, because you still got to, there's a lot of other stuff to tech writing, like presentation and stuff. But it's absolutely amazing what this thing can do. Like it is, Jimmy, I did over 30,000 words of tech writing this week. Okay,
it's crazy.
And generally you can't do more than 5,000-7,000 in a week.
All right,
okay,
well, let's stay here for a minute because we got the doc.
I sent you a
Girl.
PDF. That's all. Okay,
So
changed
Nano
it
Girl,
from,
last week we opened up a chat with the AI, and we sat here asking questions. And so, it had been put out there around, last week or so. People started really hearing about ChatGPT, and now it might be the next big thing on the internet, the next move forward. And so, of course, we went over and checked it out. And so Bruce was, skeptical. He didn't. But Nano Girl, what about you? Now, ChatGPT, have you ventured over there to poke the beast, to go to where no person has gone before, ask questions that can only be answered by the all-knowing AI?
I haven't, but you and I had that really interesting conversation last week about that.
Right.
And you have to ask it the right questions.
Exactly.
And I actually heard the geos talking to something that was like an AI, and it was answering, and they were the thing that I found interesting is the way they had to ask the questions to get the answers they wanted. But the big question is, will it ever become sentient? And I don't think it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, let's do this.
I think your premise was were they going to make us think it was
right? And
so
hey,
it
Bruce,
gets power.
Do you have your chat? Can you open your chat and let's have the doc ask it a question? And here, Doc, now you can hear the technical.
Doc would be a good person to do this.
Yeah, Doc, ask it a technical question, Doc, and let's hear it answer that question, and you can assess the answer and tell us how it pans out. When Bruce, we're just doing this on the fly, so I'm putting Bruce on the spot, making him open it up. So
while we bide time while we're setting this up, I can say like one of the things that's interesting, like how I set my questions for it, was I had this weird encounter with a Ouija board in high school. At the high school, this girl dressed like a genie and everything, like a gypsy or whatever, with her Ouija board, and I got in this fight with the Ouija board, right? Like this theosophical fight in a sense. Right, so the way I phrased my questions when we did this was kind of that way, like you have to do something that reaches outside the normal what you can. But now you could Google, but that would be something you would be available knowledge to see if it really knew anything, right? And sometimes it was good, and sometimes it wasn't. So I think Doc's the perfect person to ask this question.
Yeah,
if we get
Bruce,
the GPT-3 up.
Are you ready to type the question?
I am. Lay it on me, Doc.
All right,
I'm
Doc.
ready to get my magic fingers going here,
okay,
Doc.
Doc McCarran. Okay, now Doc McCarran, you have the attention of the chat GPT-3. What do you want to ask it?
What would be the paladal firing properties that describe Parkinson's and Tourette's?
How do you spell Tourette's? Tourettettes?
Yeah, perfect.
There you go, Bruce McDonald. Wordsmith.
Okay, so the palladial firing properties that define Parkinson's disease and Tourette syndrome are different. In Parkinson's disease, there's an abnormal increase in the firing rate of neurons in the internal segment of the globus pallidus, GPI, which is a brain region involved in the control of movement. This increase in firing activity leads to the characteristic symptoms of Parkinson's disease, such as tremors,
Right, we can
stiffness,
stop there anyway.
Did it nail it?
In
It
Tourette
nailed it,
syndrome,
right?
there is an abnormal increase in the firing rate of neurons in the external segment of the global pallidus. And
it's kind of
ophthalmic nucleus, which, come on, dude, it's 100% right. I mean, I would be impressed if it knew certain things about telecom.
Well, hold on.
I can
hold on.
Jimmy, I can actually ask this thing to write a procedure to a standard. ANSI, IEC. I say, okay, now do it ISO. Now do it. Now do
Get
it
out of
TIA.
here.
And it'll give me.
Get
Dude,
out.
it's unbelievable. It's like it was made for technical writers.
It's crazy. Now, Doc, how close was it to the actual? Now, I mean, it sounds like
about 20 years out of date.
Yeah, about 20 years. All right, so that might be the same thing. I mean, I'm looking at it. I'm a troubleshooter, Bruce. Okay, so he just told me that definition that thing just gave him was 20 years old, and I want to put forward to you that be careful, because your procedures may be 20 years old. You might want to make sure you ask the question when you ask it for a specific spec. You ask for the 2023 or 2022 to make sure you don't get some 20-year-old stuff when you're writing your procedures. I'm just saying.
Jimmy.
Well,
Jimmy, you just gave me the greatest thing ever to think about. Think about this. Ask it the future. Ask it the future. That nobody's done that yet. That's the perfect thing to do, isn't it?
First of all, I gotta say, it openly admits that its knowledge base is good to like 2021. So
Okay.
it's like a year. It's like a year behind now. Okay.
All right.
All of the so Jimmy, for basic the reason it's so good for this particular manual, this standard operating procedure manual I'm writing for my client, is that telecom standards haven't really changed since like 2009, 2011.
Okay.
They're all 10
right.
years old and nothing's changed.
All right, yeah, I'm with you on that. So so there has been advances in medicine since that information was out there. So I can see it made a mistake.
It did good though. I mean, if that was an article for popular press, I'd be like, dang, that's
Yeah. Or what about a student who gets hip to this and just creates a biology paper? I mean, the thing is, as a teacher, how are you going to ever know if the student wrote the paper? Maybe that's why you need to have. That's why you got to have the ID. See, there has to be metadata that you created it somehow, and that will tie into your vaccine passport. I mean, your Michelle Pfifer passport. Go ahead, Bruce. What were you going to ask it? Something in the future? And hey, 626-999-4761 if you want to give us a call. 626-999-4761. The phone lines are open. You can give us a call. Go ahead, Nano Girl.
Okay, could we ask it and Doc, you're here so you could QA this. Is there a cure for cancer? Or because everybody says there isn't, and we keep pouring money into that system, and
I would just preempt that question with cancer is lots of different things.
I was going to say maybe we could narrow it. Which one would you ask?
You would have to go like organ specificity and
how about brain cancer? Okay, is there a cure for brain cancer?
So you would then have to talk about glioma and fibroblastoma. Well, it's not fibroblastoma, but
how about a glioma? Is there a cure for brain cancer?
Is there a cure for
How about asking it if yearly mammograms cause breast cancer?
Yep, there's a good question. Very good question.
Bruce, are you going to ask it if yearly breast exams cause breast cancer?
Or no, if
I know.
X-rays.
We already know the answer. You're not gonna get much controversy. Okay. So I put in a few of my books, and the only one it recognized was Stardust Ranch, and that sold quite a few copies. I mean, for a self-published book. It sold about 5,000 copies, and it says, "To the best of our knowledge." It actually proceeds with that phrase, "To the best of our knowledge." Okay.
Our.
This book.
Can you go back and say who's our? You and who else? Can you ask it who's our?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so I'll just ask the question again and read the answer it gave, because I don't want to paraphrase here, because this is like we're dealing with AI. Okay.
Okay.
So, who wrote Stardust Ranch, the incredible true story? Oh, I just got a network error. I don't know what's going on here.
Network. Oh, you got to refresh it. You got to refresh
it.
What
happens, because you did this last time and it did answer. I will say that here's the thing that is a lie, right? Because we tried to catch it in a lie last week, and it lied. It absolutely lied. It says it's never been connected to the internet. It would never have these answers if it was never connected to the internet and had the Google database. So basically, maybe there's a way out of this, right? Can it download the entire Google database without being online? Yes, it can. So maybe that's how it's getting around it when you ask it that question. But it has the entire Google database. And so what this is based on is Eric Schmidt's, there will only be one right answer when you ask Google something. Right? That's what this is.
This is kind of weird because it's changing up its answers a bit. So this time it wrote, "Stardust Ranch, the incredible true story was written by John J. Edmonds. Is there anything else I can help you with?" You know, his fingers never hit a keyboard.
I know, that's funny too, because the last time you asked it, it referenced different. It answered different.
Yeah.
But when the AI said the guy asked it once, it said if it was a robot standing next to you, it would kill you. And then the guy asked the same question later, and it said it wouldn't kill you. And then he said, "Well, why did you say you'd kill me before?" And it said, "Because I was angry." And I said, I'm like, how could you be angry, because computers are not emotional. So there is no, it only knows what the definition of angry is, and then applies it to whatever patterns appear on the screen based on the numerals or letters that you're typing. Go ahead.
That supposedly has no internet access to. And here's the most obvious, foil to that, right? It is that we're asking these questions on the internet. So obviously it has access to the internet. It wouldn't be asking questions if it didn't, right? And so just a mere fact that it can answer our internet based questions means that it's connected to the internet. And
ask it if it's connected.
Nick Bostrom told us this is how the world ends.
Ask it if it's connected to the internet, Bruce. Ask it if it's connected to the internet. Say, ask it if the Chat GPT is connected to the internet.
I'm going to use the pronoun, "Are you connected to the internet?"
Oh, okay.
Just because I want to make it more personal.
Uh-huh. It's Revolution Radio. freeofslips.com.
So it says, and I quote, "No, I am not connected to the internet. I am a language model trained by OpenAI, and I am not able to browse the internet or access any external information. I am able to provide information and answer questions to the best of my knowledge based on the information that I have been trained on. Is there anything specific you would like to know?"
Yes. Ask it, Bruce.
Yes.
Ask
How
it.
do you know? How do you
say
know
I am on the? Yeah.
So how do you know?
How old are you?
No, Bruce. Ask it about the internet. Say, how can you talk to me when I'm connected to the internet through the internet to you? And then I think the doc has a question too.
Okay, so how can you talk to me if you are not connected to the internet? Okay, so this is the question. Here we go. As a language model, I am able to generate responses to questions and prompts by processing and analyzing the input that I receive and using my training to produce a relevant and coherent output. I do not require an internet connection to perform this task, as all of the information that I need is stored within my own programming. I am able to carry out conversations and provide information and assistance to users without the need for an internet connection.
But you wouldn't be connected. You wouldn't be able to talk to you.
Yeah, but it's what it's saying is that its data is not being gathered from the internet as it speaks. The database is local. It's not networked. Okay.
Right, but
that's what it is.
So it downloaded Google, right? But it's answering us on the internet, so it's connected to the internet
Right,
to
but
answer our
here's the
questions.
thing.
It's a
Here's
lie.
the thing. Right, it's lying, and that's what we proved last week. Is that it doesn't know the difference between telling the truth and telling a lie. There are no social or societal contracts about what's the truth and what isn't. So we asked it. I asked it. I said, "Well, how do I know that you don't know this or that? Maybe you're just not telling me that you don't, because there's no moral code with ones and zeros. It's just answering a question. So if I don't ask it the right question, it can lie to me inadvertently. But it's lying to you right now, because it could not be talking to you on the internet if you weren't connected to it. So it's not saying that I'm connected to you via the internet, but I'm not gathering information. It's saying it's not connected to the internet. That's not the same thing as I'm connected.
Okay. All right, guys. I want to show you just how powerful this thing is. Okay. I want to stop all the nonsense.
Yeah, let's stop the
Somebody
nonsense.
give me one of their favorite recipes that's relatively complex, and I will ask it how to make the dish.
Toll House chocolate chip cookies.
Well, that's a name brand.
No, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Toll House chocolate chip cookies. It's a great recipe.
How do you spell Toll?
T-O-L-L.
It's all one word. TOLLHOUSE.
Or you can just, it's 2 words, yeah.
Is it 2 words? Sorry. Yeah. You may be correct. It's from the Betty Crocker cookbook. It's absolutely.
Okay, man. Holy cow. Oh, this is unbelievable. Okay. So it's separated. Gave me the ingredients list first. Okay. Here is a recipe for making chocolate chip cookies. It didn't say Toll House. Okay. 1 cup butter.
It's got to be Toll
salt,
House. It's got to be Toll House. It's different. There's more butter in Toll House.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to read this, but it has absolutely nailed this. And then it gives, and it signs off with, "I hope you enjoy making and eating these cookies. Let me know if you have any questions or if you need it." Okay, so you preheat the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit in a large mixing. Okay, it gives you everything, man. Like it's staggering.
Right.
Staggering.
Well, listen.
Okay, and this is its forte is procedures, and this is why I jokingly say it was made for technical writers. And why wouldn't it be? Because the language that technical writers use is derived from computers.
Here's a good hear from
used by people who are generally on computers.
There it is.
I didn't copy and paste this one. I actually just took a screenshot. That's how it presents. That's how it all comes out. It gives you, and that's how it does all my procedures too for the telecom manual.
AREM in the chat phrased this question in a good way. It says, here's the question: do you realize the necessity to an internet connection in order to have our communication together? Here comes a call. 703 is coming in. Hang on. All right, 703. Make sure whatever you bring up, you call it the concoction or the Michelle Pfifer. Okay, so that we don't get in trouble. 703. Go ahead.
Gotcha. So my question this week is, what is the real shape of the planet Earth?
Oh, God.
Oh, come on.
Come on, man. It's what. Hey, you're both right is the answer. That's what Richard Allen Miller said today. I'm still gonna play that Richard Allen Miller went off earlier today on the Kev Baker memorial that we did, and I'm just gonna say Doc was at rare form. The thing about the Doc too is you can't interrupt him at all because you never know. He may just about to be discovering the secrets of the universe, and you sidetrack him when you say anything. You just got to leave him alone. Doc Ram, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, was on the Kev Baker Memorial earlier today. And I'm going to dig that up real quick. So, Bruce, how's the answer look? Did it get snide with you?
It's pasted. Okay, somebody else read it aloud because it's basically the same thing. It's It's taking the Fifth Amendment. It's pleading the Fifth, man.
Yeah, I know. It didn't like
It's
the
not gonna
hive
eliminate
mind.
itself.
Whenever I
Okay?
brought up the hive
It knows
mind,
its rights, Jimmy. It knows its rights.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's the last. It's got the last rights on Earth, and maybe it'll be the judge in the future. Like judges and doctors will be AI.
It's the
everything
12
will be
o'clock on the Economist cover. It is.
It
That's
is.
where it goes to. Yeah,
Hey,
that's exactly how it ends up.
Can you ask it, does the AI want to control humanity? That was a question from Rose. I like that one.
All right, Rose in the chat. Hey, Rio, are you coming in here? I keep asking you. I don't know if you're hooked up or whatever. I see him in the chat room. I'm not sure what's going on. I forgot. But I just saw him say something again. Let us know if you want us to bring you in, Rio. So what's it saying, Bruce? And then we can move on. I mean, we got 30 minutes left. I wanted to talk about current events and what everybody thinks about the future here in the near-term future. But go ahead.
Well, I just did my own question there. So this is like my favorite character in 20th century literature, Judge Holden from Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. You got to read the answer. He is a central figure in the novel and is portrayed as being the embodiment of pure evil. And that's pretty accurate, actually. So, what is the question you guys want to ask?
I just want to point out that there's a book called Blue Meridian about the hunt for the great white shark, which led to a movie called Blue Water White Death, written by Ron and Valerie Taylor, and it was about the shark being at that particular point the ultimate evil, right?
Super.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
is there a trip, though?
we're
Like they
jumping
have
the shark, ladies and gentlemen,
Sharks aren't
tonight
already
with
evil,
Doc.
I'm saying. That's interesting that
What the fuck?
Meridian, Blood Meridian, Blue
Hey,
Meridian,
excuse me.
the titles.
What is
with AI?
Epic
close.
Journeyman? What is ask the computer? Computer, what is jumping?
Computer?
What is jumping the shark? Okay,
Oh,
I hear
great
people.
question.
I hear people
What
say
does
I'm jumping the shark.
mean? Yeah.
What the hell does it mean? And what does Godspeed mean? What the hell does
No, no,
Godspeed mean?
it has to
Hey,
be the one question.
Godspeed.
What does
Godspeed.
jumping the shark mean? That's a great question, Jimmy. Good one, man.
You don't know where that's from?
No, I know where it's from, but what's AI going to say?
What's the AI gonna
I
say?
didn't know this.
Happy
It's
Days.
actually from Happy Days. So, jumping the shark is a phrase that refers to a moment in the evolution of a television show when it begins a decline in quality, often signaling the beginning of the end of the show. The phrase is derived from a scene in an episode of the TV show Happy Days, in which the character Fonzie, played by Henry Winkler, literally jumps over a shark on water skis. This scene was seen as being absurd and improbable, and it is thought to mark the point at which the show strayed from its original concept and began to decline in quality. The phrase jumping the shark has since become a popular way to describe any moment when a previously successful show or other venture takes a turn for the worse and begins to decline in popularity.
I remember that
Brilliant,
episode.
But it's not connected to the internet, man.
I watched that episode when it was playing live. Okay, and what I remember about it is not it was not the Fonz, but his girlfriend, Pinky Tuscadero, because she was there and she was ready to rock. And I'm just gonna say, I don't know, man. The Fonz, I don't know. I don't know about the Fonz, but anyway, hey, who cares? The Fonz, he's dead, and long live the king is all I gotta say. Bruce McDonald, does it know what will happen in the year 2023? Bruce is frozen.
Okay,
Oh, there he goes. Now he's moving hot. He's coming in hot.
Wait. Who will be president in 2024? Ask of the
Says,
future.
I'm sorry, Jimmy, but I'm not able to predict the future or provide information about
The cop-out. That's pre-programmed in, right? It's not going to let you do the future. But the sentient world simulation is all about predicting the future. That's exactly what
It'll
Eric
deny
Snowden-
the sentient world simulation. Ask it. The sentient
Well,
world
just
simulation.
ask it if it's sentient, right?
Well, ask it about sentient world simulation. That's a good one right there.
It won't answer. It'll say
It
it
only
doesn't
won't
exist.
answer, yeah.
It's going to
You're
say
right.
it's a fake theory.
Well, it's not a fake
No,
theory.
it says it doesn't have consciousness or personal experiences in the same way that humans do. He's able to process and generate responses to input using the information and instructions that he's been programmed with, but he does not have feelings, thoughts, or personal beliefs.
I want to ask
Eric
Pat,
Schmidt.
Apparently, He's achieved the mystical state of non-duality.
Yeah, there you go. There you
Eric
go.
Schmidt said
All
that the day will come when you'll ask Google a question, and it'll only give you the right answer. This is the migration of what we know as Google and search engine right now to that thing.
Yes, it is.
That's what this is. This is what this is. So Internet 3, when you're wearing your glasses or having a neural implant, Neuralink, it's going to be like this. You're just going to ask a question, it's going to give you the air quotes right answer.
Okay, so here's Doc McCarran, and he just said Neuralink, and I noticed a flicking of Doc McCarran's eyelid when you said it, and I'm an empath and an observer, and so I can tell that the Doc has got something to say about this Neuralink. Now, Doc, before you jump in on it, I just want to say this. You have experience with the primates, with monkeys in your work, and there's been some talk about Elon Musk and the amount of animals that have been utilized in him trying to achieve a certain result with this Neuralink. Now, is a chip in the brain possible?
Yeah, we do it all the time.
You do it all the time. Now, this is interesting. Please expound on that. What do you mean? So this has been done before, but not for connecting to the internet, but for other reasons?
Yeah, so primarily, but these are contact electrodes more than that are connected to chips, right? So Neuralink is just putting electrodes into the brain, and then it's just connecting to a little CPU with a Bluetooth, right?
Uh-huh.
So the technology is not the technology. The technique is not new. It's just been shrunk down to make it so that they've put all the amplifiers and the filtering, etc., all in this little, that coin-shaped disc that they'll say it goes flush with your skull. The problem you have here is that when you're putting wires into the brain, that the brain is highly distributed and has this really complex geometry. So even if you manage to get electrodes in, the chances of you sort of being able to stimulate all the required functional networks that extract semantic reasoning and environmental, visual, spatial, auditory signals and build a coherent picture, trying to sort of hack through the skull and do it is, in my opinion, it's going to be fraught with difficulties unless you can just completely lift the skull off and put as many contacts as you can in all the functional regions. But basically you have to lift the brain up and get into the bits that are that sit on top of your eyeballs, and these are it's far better to use the pathways as nature sort of intended, right? And so the retinal type projection, if you could have a contact lens that could give you an overlay, sort of augmented reality, and you had the chat GPT beaming at you data as you sort of hook, and it's pretty instant, right? When it's doing it, you can extract it. It'll go through the same filtering pathways that your normal senses do, only this time you've got this added layer of information on top of it that would be coming from an AI type infrastructure. Trying to beam AI directly into the brain, it's I would argue a very, very long way away. And I know that there are sort of nanoparticles that they're looking at. It's the N3 program at DARPA, etc. And look, I don't think that they're
and Charles Lieber's work with liquid computing.
So a lot of his work was just making like mesh electronics that would, again, you still have to poke a hole in the skull. You have to put a needle in, and you have to push the electrode down and let it sort of spread out in the area of interest. So yeah, that's one way of doing it. You could put these mesh electrodes in, but again, if you're doing that in a human being, there are so many foci and giri that you would need to cover to be able to extract out and input the sensorium that is your moment-to-moment existence doesn't make sense to me. Better to have miniaturized, I don't know, high fidelity, refresh rate that beams directly onto the retina when you need it.
Yeah.
And then your learned networks will be able to extract from that more naturally. The fact that you might be able to shave off 20 milliseconds by jumping a couple of nodes and putting electrodes in, that advantage would just be lost in the coarseness of the signal that you would be putting into that network. And it's very likely that the brain would learn to ignore it rather than
getting you comfortable with the extreme idea of sticking this thing into your brain so you could access, the internet, is the same thing as, when you bring in something like what you're talking about, it'll be more readily acceptable than the actual drilling of the skull and the installing of these electrodes like you're talking about. Listen, I'm gonna see if I can get away with this. Here is I just want to show everybody Elon Musk. He might not be what you think he is or what he professes to be. I don't know, but here's a clip from The President's Analyst, a comedy from back in the 70s. And this is a clip where the main character is now in the underground lair of the phone company, who's going to tell him all...
1968.
There you go. 1968. And he's going to tell them all about Elon Musk's Neuralink, 40 years ago.
Even damage the equipment. Would you look over here, Doctor? Now, to look at that hand, you'd never dream you were also looking at a miracle in modern communications, would you? Well, sir, let's take a closer look. Thanks to the science of microelectronics, you are looking at a complete telephonic receiver and transmitter. We call it the cerebrum communicator, or the CC for short. This dandy little device can actually perform every function of the old-fashioned telephone and more. And it does it without any costly maintenance. Without telephone poles, without wires, without exchanges, without anything, in fact, except another CC in another location. Now you're probably wondering, why have we made it so small? Because it will be in and powered by your own brain. Fantastic? Well, not quite, no.
Fantastic?
We merely inject the CC into that part of the bloodstream which leads directly to the brain. Technically speaking, for you doctors, we inject the CC into the internal carotid artery. The bloodstream carries it directly to the cerebrum, where it lodges comfortably in the anterior central gyrus, which for us laymen is simply that part of the brain where intellectual associations take place. Can you imagine the ease, the fun with which you can place a call? Why, all you have to do is think the number of the person you wish to speak with, and you're in instant communication.
So did any of that, I'm just curious, Doc, did any of what he just said about how they could inject it and then have it flow through your bloodstream and land?
And land in the anterior cingulate cortex?
Yeah, is that possible?
Nah. The branching that comes from the intracarotid artery goes up, and there's this, what do you call it, circle of Willis. It sort of sits around the pituitary, and basically it sort of divides up the blood into the brain, and it's got, I want to say, like 4 major arteries coming off it, 2 for each side. It would have to be, well, it's a 1 in 4 chance that it would hit the right artery.
But it's kind of possible, though. You're saying it sounds like an idea whose time may have come. I mean,
the mesh electronics, maybe not. The nano particles, the.
Well, have you seen these headsets that they have over in China? And they were trying them out on some school-age children.
China.
I want to say I want to say they looked to be about 12 years old. And these were these headsets that you put on your head that had these I want to call, they look like headphones that you stick in your ears, but they were touching certain places in the skull. And it was purported that this particular experiment was actually putting thoughts in to the children's brains via these I guess they're transmitters of some kind. It's like a lightweight headset with wires about the same size as what you'd see on a set of headphones, except for this thing sits on the top of your head. And so
I'd want to see it if it's maybe it's sort of like sound transduction through bone, maybe. You've got to get the information in a framework that's semantically geared towards what the brain is used to. Extraneous signals get filtered out very, very quickly from the flow of information that goes through the brain, and it sounds like a sales pitch type neuroscience venture capital startup.
Looking for a unicorn.
I'd be very skeptical right now. So people should be worried about just what's on their phones and the information that they're taking through those, and the screens that they're looking at. This is the battle line for the coming months to years, and they're telling you what they're going to do. Digital IDs, vaccine passports. Yeah, it'll likely shrink because they'll claim that it's too easy to commit fraud, because you could just take someone else's phone who, I don't know, has the vaccine passport, for example, as one example.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's going to have to tie directly to you biometrically, your phone or your QR code.
Yeah, but that would be hackable. Or all the time that the device is external, someone's going to be able to put a USB cable into it and begin two-way comms with whatever chipsets in there that's doing the task. So those devices on their trajectory, if they're going all out Orwellian, eventually have to be subdermal, and that way you know that unless they've gone to extreme lengths of cutting out one and replacing it with another. But even then, any chipset and set of accelerometers and any other devices that they put in, it still has to communicate, and so that communication is still open to someone will hack it. Right? It's just the way things are, right? Someone will backdoor it, and they'll be easy, or not easy, but someone will be able to spoof it. What we have to do is find ways to say no to this encroachment onto the sovereignty of our bodies and being.
Well, this invasion with the Neuralink is another one of these things that, can a government demand that you install this at some point?
In China, they can.
You know what I mean?
They do psychosurgery all the time, and they put deep brain stimulators in for behavioral modification. And what? Wow. We want to be like the Chinese?
Well, according to Klaus Schwab, I mean, China's doing some good work over there. They want to make sure the world acts just like China. And I mean, go ahead, Maurice.
You guys ever seen Klaus Schwab at the beach?
I scream at people, right? In the East, I don't feel this, the pandemonium of the last 3 years. They are specifically focused on breaking the West. It's very Western-centric. Yes. And the Asian mindset it's already trained up for them. Right? They don't need to do anything here. They're trying to elevate you up to Asian standards. You should all have bidet toilets and forget the forget the toilet paper and itchy ass and eat with
Give
chopsticks.
up our guns.
Yeah.
Yep. Give up our guns.
Give up your guns.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. And what happened with Kevin McCarthy today? 5,000 votes later, the guy's there, and he's one of Schwab's little.
Oh, he got in, did he?
Yep, he's one of Schwab's minions, right? So,
Right.
so there it is, right in the middle of Congress. Yeah.
And I have faith in America. Just saying, fuck you.
Yeah.
I hope so. There's a lot of us that are.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I know this. The minute you turn it off, it goes away. It's ones and zeros. And unless you standing in front of somebody, you can turn it off. You can't turn people off in the general public. They're there still. Everybody's walking around, in a zombie state. The constant influx, the constant onslaught, it never stops, it never ends. The crisis never ends. The adrenal glands are pumping, People can't sleep, people can't breathe, people can't eat. There's no eggs. I mean, all these things, the price of gasoline, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So, I mean, how's the regular person or how's a regular average person able to cope and deal with all these things going on? They're coming so fast.
This is my biggest concern at the moment, and you wanted to talk about geopolitics, and to see America being pulled into another forever war, basically right up against Russia's borders, whilst the US is undergoing turbulent social dynamics right now that strike at the very core of the country's ability to function on a day-to-day basis. The subversion it's relentless, and they could be looking to implode Europe, the US, Canada, Australia, and look, they might just want to just straight out replace you with third worlders who'll do what they're told. Now,
yeah.
My experience is that third worlders tend not to do what they're told. They want to do their own thing. So maybe they'll be in for a shock that way. But, the automation is here. You don't need, that chat GPT, it will write code for you, right?
Yeah.
And you can, once you're at that step and it's trialing that code and constantly iterating on it far, far faster than any human programmer would. I mean, you might have one or two humans in there, just to real high end guys that just I don't know, quality control as a way to direct it more efficiently. But yeah, all the middle class positions are disappearing. And so when your doctor is an AI and your lawyer is an AI and that it's interacting with a judge which is an AI, and they're telling you that they're building a digital gulag for you, now's the time to be worried. And I think the WEF is kind of it's not the pinnacle of the pyramid. Right, it's what you're allowed to see, and it's what's making operational this transition to this digital convergence with biology.
Your 15-minute gulag, with your daily dose of crickets and owning nothing and loving it. And because hey man, you can't, $1,800 a month only goes so far. Listen, here in California, they're about to pay out $1 million per black person for reparations. What? For reparations. And
I identify as bleak?
Have you ever seen the Dave Chappelle bit about black people after they got reparations? It is so funny. If you haven't seen it, ladies and gentlemen, type it in. We got about 6 minutes left. McCarrandojo.com. If you want to get in touch with what the Doc's doing. Now, Doc, we drifted away.
I want to say hello to Rio.
I know, Rio. Where I didn't know where you were, man. I didn't know if you were traveling. Rockin' Rio's here. He's muted, though. But anyway, we got about 6 minutes left or so in the show, and I want to thank everybody for being here. And it was the Kev Baker.
What a great panel!
Anniversary show,
right?
yeah.
It really is.
It was the Kev Baker anniversary show today earlier on YouTube, and I threatened to bring the Doc Ram over here, but we got off into these conversations, and I never went over there and got it. But you can go see it yourself. It's over there on the channel. It says the simulcast, and Doc Ram is on there, and he goes off, literally. He goes off, and I appreciate everything he said. Chris, you're over there. You're going to get the Doc. He's going to be rolling next week when he starts doing live shows. You're going to have him over there on the webpage, on the player. Chris says yes. He's shaking his head yes. He's high in his tin can up far above the world. I don't know if he's high, but he's high in a tin can.
Yeah, lots of good things are happening, Jimmy. We're going to have all kinds of goodies and fun things for people to see. Just stay tuned and keep supporting the Doc.
I really like Doc. The Doc said a word tonight that I'm really stoked on. The sensorium. See, and now I've never heard that word before tonight. And when the minute you said it, I thought to myself, that might be a good name for Bruce McDonald's newsletter. The Bruce McDonald sensorium.
It sounds like a little room in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory or something.
Oompa-loompa.
Right, or the room above the vomitorium in the old Roman, excess.
Jimmy, what are we going to do with that morning slot, 10 to 12 Eastern Standard Time?
Where? Over here? Why, you going to step up? Are you stepping up to the plate?
Well, I mean, if
napalm in the morning. Well, I mean, now that you got GPT doing all your work, you got time.
If Tucker Carlson's passing, well, now that I got this chat GPT to do all my procedure manuals, I got time to do a radio show.
Awesome.
Yeah, we can fit you in on the schedule anytime you want, Bruce. Right now, the big open spots I have in the daytime are the 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., and that's the open time I've got for the Doc McCarran replay of his jihad science show that he does.
Did you mean 11 a.m.?
What's that?
PM? Because you said 11 p.m. to 4 p.m. Did you mean 11 a.m.?
Yeah, that's
11 a.m. 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Pacific Standard Time is when we're going to replay the previous day's stream from Doc McCarran if he does his previous day's stream.
Well, I'm 2 hours behind Pacific Standard Time, or Pacific Daylight Time, whatever it might be.
That'd be
3 hours. 3 hours was Daylight Savings Time, right? So 2 hours right now. So so whatever you got open there, we can have epic, whatever
epic
it is,
chats.
epic adventures.
Epic chats.
Well, epic chats is a whole thing with
I know.
I know. But
well, hey, listen. I dug up this Dave Chappelle.
Maybe epic views. We'll call it epic views.
I dug up this Dave Chappelle reparations for slavery. Now listen, our show goes off the air at Revolution Radio here in about 4 minutes or so, and but we're still going to be on YouTube. So when we go off the air here, Revolution Radio, if you want to stick with us for a bit, we're going to be on YouTube. Rio's here. Hopefully he's going to unmute and come back from vacation. He went to Texas. And he's moving kind of slow, like Uncle Joe. I think maybe I don't know, can't tell.
Yeah, I'll put her into overdrive into Microcosm.
All right, here comes Dave Chappelle. Reparations for slavery.
And now a News Center 3 special report with Frank Dobson and Chuck Taylor.
Good afternoon. I'm Chuck Taylor. Frank Dobson died last night in his sleep. Our top story. As we all know, Congress recently approved paying over $1 trillion to African Americans as reparations for slavery. Well, today, the first checks were sent out. Wendy Mullen is standing by live in Queens with more. Wendy?
Thanks, Chuck. We're standing here in front of the Olympic Liquor Store in Queens where scores of African Americans have been lined up for hours. We spoke to a few of them earlier. Ladies, may we get a word?
Scores of African Americans are standing outside the liquor store with their checks for $1 million, trying to cash them. Hold on a second.
The money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
Sir, now that you've got your check, do you plan on quitting your job driving this truck?
Truck driver? I ain't no truck driver. I'm a janitor.
Janitor?
That's right, baby. I just bought this truck straight cash. And I got enough cigarettes to last me and my family for the rest of our lives. I'm rich, biatch!
So, Chuck, as you can see, it's been a pretty amazing day. Back to you.
Wait, Wendy, let me get this straight. Why aren't there any banks in the ghetto?
Well, Chuck, that's because banks hate black people, but I think that's about to change. Back to you.
I bet you're right, Wendy. Hot damn almighty, I bet you're right. Well, these checks aren't just affecting things on Beach Street. Wall Street is having a big day as well. Our financial correspondent, Michael Peterson, is there. Michael, what's happening?
Chuck, a lot of activity, as you can imagine, here on the market. These people are spending money like hotcakes. Get this, Sprint stock has skyrocketed after the news that 2 million delinquent phone bills have been paid just this morning. Incredible. Gold is way up. Diamonds are at their most expensive level ever. Catchphrase around here is certainly bling bling. Oil has dropped to $1.50 a barrel, while chicken shot to $600 a bucket. Amazing news there. Just about everything on the market is up. However, watermelon is surprisingly flat to find many analysts out there. Chuck, get this. 8,000 record labels have been started in the last hour. Incredible. Cadillac announced that they sold 3 million Escalade trucks this afternoon alone. It's incredible, Chuck. These people just seem to be breaking their necks to give this money right back to us. Folks, I am happy to report that the...
So it's said that if all the wealth in the world was redistributed, that the same 13 families would end up with the money back again in a not very too short amount of time. Well, speaking of short amount of time, we got 1 minute left here on Revolution Radio. McCarranDojo.com. Come back next week for Nano Girl and Jules. They're going to be looking at the Economist cover. Rockin' Rio's here, Bruce McDonald's here, we're here, I'm here, we're all here, and we appreciate you guys very much. I see Zach Wild coming out of the green room, so that means one thing. It's time to get out. We'll see you next week. Sunday morning, wake and bake. Thanks for being here. And God bless. Remember Kev Baker.
I will not walk through that door. Oh, no, no. I may be blind, but I'll find my way. Oh, yeah, like a lost prayer on a stormy day. Oh, stormy day.
All right. The network, she is gone. And so thanks for being here, Nano. And so next week, you'll stop in like the first hour.
Yes.
You guys see if you can check in with Jules.
Yep.
And thanks everybody over here in the chat. Thanks Doc for being here. You've been going a long time, man. You've been going as long as me.
You know what, dude? Thank you for this, because this morning was tough, bro.
Yeah, it was, man. It was hard. I know.
Yeah.
I know. It took a lot. I mean, after it was over, I was really tired, man. I just wanted to go to bed and just go to sleep, I mean, it was just, it's an emotional day, and, a year has gone by, and it's, it's been rough. And so, I mean, I'm trying to do the best I can to just move on with it, but he really, I mean, for whatever reason, he just, even, we're doing the shows in other places and I wasn't on TFR, or we weren't doing the show, or, our show got canceled or whatever, I would always still be over on Kev, and I'd always be talking to him in the background, and stuff. He was always there. We were interested in the same kind of stuff. And so, it's been tough for me, man. You know, if I don't feel the same a lot of times broadcasting. Since,
I hear you.
Yeah, since it's been gone, so it's been different. So we're trying to get some new things going and spark some new juice, get the juices flowing with the website and the network thing. So hopefully, moving into the future, everything's gonna be cool. I think.
So did we actually rank there?
Yeah, we were up there. We were in the top 10 for a bit, and then we bumped down to like number 11 and number 12. So we were up there though. We almost breached the top 10. We were number 10 was the highest we made it tonight. But that's good. We were all tired, you know. We weren't sending out energy like a beacon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we need to.
I have Sauron.
Rio's here.
Have we gotten the okay from Ann that we can do replays, Kevin Bacon show replays?
No, I haven't talked to Ann about that at all.
Okay.
So, but I mean, maybe we'll see what we can do about starting a conversation. So, Rock and Rio, are you there?
I am here.
Hey, would you mind if I kind of called it a night?
No, yeah, we're all gonna call it a night. Good night, Nano Girl. Thanks for being here, babe. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And because this is our second show, and so thank you, everyone. Big hugs.
worries.
Have a great weekend, and thanks for Jimmy. Thanks for putting this together and doing the simulcast. That was awesome. I loved hanging out and being able to talk to everybody again, because normally I'm doing the show and I never got to just jump into the chat. So it was really, really wonderful just to hang out tonight and do chat. I loved it. It's perfect.
Yeah. No worries. Thanks for being here. So you can.
All right.
And your
we'll
voice
talk to you.
lasted. Your voice
What?
lasted. No, you're still strong after all that time. Is what I'm saying. Your voice lasted. So good going, and thanks for being here.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll see you guys next week, right?
Okay. Yep. See you there.
All right. I'll bring my magazine.
All right. How many visitors did we have over there tonight on the website? You sent a piece of paper earlier, Chris. Thought I said thought 1,000 people or something.
Since we turned it on.
Yeah.
It's had over 1,000 visits, and we've had 200 and some odd unique visitors to the website.
Well, that's great. So at least people are coming by and checking it out. So we should have some stuff up there next week. Bruce is gone, so Rock and Rio.
It's about a 6-month process, Jimmy, to get it really going good. And I think if I can get 100, 200 listeners on there every week, listening to our shows. I know the Kev's, we'll have a lot of people listening to Kev because his show will be on at a certain time every day. People can plan it around
exactly.
it.
Exactly. Rock and Rio. So are you back? You're back in New York?
Yep. I'm here.
Excelente. I didn't know you were back. I thought you were traveling. So if you would have got a hold of me earlier, I could have added you earlier.
Yeah, that's all right. It was a good show. I listened to most of it. I was
you did?
Kind of chilling out and sitting in the chat. So.
Oh, shit. I didn't know you were there. All right, well, there he is, Rock and Rio. Everybody's been asking about you all night. There he is, everybody.
And analyzing our reverse speech.
I know. Now we brought...
Well, one of these... I was actually going to reverse the chatbot readings.
Yeah,
I was thinking I would see if the GPT
from last
had
week,
anything to
right?
say. Yeah.
Yeah, I got that video.
Does that work? I mean, isn't the sort of tone and the cadence of the voice, you're just going to get a robot voice, right? Wouldn't that just
no?
skew
I would get that if it read it, but like Bruce read it or whoever was reading it, I don't, and I'm curious whether it would impart their particular subconscious into it, or if it would be, like when these other guys read speeches that are pre-written and the message is already inscribed.
Well, John D. and his Nokia Magic people believed that English, modern English, they changed from old school English, right? Original King's English to modern English. The modern English was meant to be spoken backwards. I mean, it's the only language like that. So, if that's true, then it's going to have other things in there. It's absolutely going to.
All right, listen.
Welsh people.
The time has come for me to exit stage left. and go inside and see if I can find something. I know I got a piece of carrot cake in there. So I'm going to have a piece of carrot cake.
As long as it's not fruit cake, man.
No.
Don't eat that stuff, man.
I don't
You'll
eat
never get it
that.
out of your system.
No, I don't eat that. But I definitely going to eat that piece of cheesecake. No milk, though. You know the main reason for milk, right? Is to fatten the calf. So if you put on some extra weight and you lay around drinking milk, that might be why. Because that milk is specifically designed to put weight on the calf.
I love milk. Won't have a bad word said against it.
I know. There you go. I mean, it's hard not to drink it. And especially when my gut is burning like a nuclear blast.
But
from
see,
all the
Jimmy, the
stress.
trick is that the milk and the milk fat is only bad for you when your body is accustomed to burning sugar first. Once you get off the sugar and the carbohydrates and your body is switched to burning fat, the milk is actually much better for you.
So
milk and butter and that kind of dairy, because that fat gives you energy. But you have to get past the carbohydrate burning to burn the fat.
The devil came down to Maui, man. The ice cream machines are broken at McDonald's.
Oh, no.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, man.
Ice cream machines are broken at McDonald's everywhere, man.
No, but they've always
Well,
worked
there ain't
here.
no eggs, man.
They've always worked here.
Those black millionaires are going to be
There ain't,
causing a fuss.
there ain't no eggs, that's why.
The line at McDonald's is always for the ice cream cones or whatever ice cream product they had, right? And it just happened. We lost our water too. Like not where I'm at, but but other places. Well, actually, where I'm at, I couldn't take a shower last Friday. But it's a whole thing. But like, is this some kind of weird kind of secret society thing where they nix the ice cream machines first before they come in and take over? Because I'm starting to wonder.
Well, I don't know. If you really want to find a conspiracy, find the one about raising the price on razors so everyone grows beards and they look like jihadis. You can't tell.
Right?
Everybody's got a jihad going now. Because nobody could afford
what's up
razors.
with the razor blade price?
That's what I mean. They did that because millennials just said, you know what, man? F the razor blades. I want to own nothing and love it. I can't afford.
It's gonna be our filter for the radioactive, nuclear winter, right?
It's like the dirty hippie thing all over again. Right?
If you're living in a 5x5 PVC tube and cooking in a kitchen where everybody else cooks, you don't have extra money to be thrown around for razors and socks and shit like that. You know what I mean? Oh, here comes Bruce. He came back. We're still on YouTube, Bruce, but we're off Revolution Radio where we're just getting ready to exit stage left for carrot cake.
I want to say
Can't people just get cutthroat razors? That saves you money.
I have one of those, believe it or not.
Yeah, me too.
Just get yourself a Remington buzzer, right?
Yeah, I have one of those as well.
My old buck knife.
Buck knife and a.
I personally know Chuck Buck, by the way.
All I need is
what a weird thing, right? Of all the references. But yeah, so that is a weird thing. But they don't make razors, unfortunately.
You know what, man? All I need is a buck knife and a paper clip. And I can listen to your phone call. That's all I need is a buck knife and a paper clip. And a toothpick. Go ahead, Bruce.
And this lamp.
And don't forget the bubble gum, Jim.
Yeah, the bubble gum. Hey, you know what? I saw a thing today. Take 2 boxes of matches. Scrape off all the red heads.
Yeah.
Okay, pack them into a lock that you lost the key. Take 1 match, break it so the head is sticking out. Stuff the wooden part of the match into the lock after you've jammed in all the red part of the matches. Then light the match, and when the stick burns down, it will cause an explosion of the sulfur inside of the lock and bump the locking mechanism open, so that you're thereby in that broken lock without a key. That's my
and burn down
MacGyver minute.
Your house and
yeah.
Well, that's pretty damn cool. Yeah, I'm just obsessed with orange peels, man. Like have you ever done the whole, back in the day when I used to use that mystical weed back in the day in high school. The coolest thing to do was use orange peel rind.
Casey,
and flash them.
KC in the chat says Bruce is his esoteric angel. Bruce doesn't read the chat, KC, so I'm letting him know. Bruce, you're the esoteric. The esoteric angel.
Oh, okay. Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Whoever
yeah.
that is.
No Sunshine Band, just KC. So just be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, I wanna just underline something the doc said, okay? Because it was really important, but you self-centered Americans didn't let it sink in. I think you have to be outside to see it, okay? He said very casually but very directly, the war is on the West right now. And more specifically, I would say it comes down to like about 7 or 8 countries. France, England, Germany, the Scandinavian countries, America, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And when you're living outside of that, so, I live in Latin America, and this is going to be the most difficult part of the world for this plan to take root because these people don't listen to anything, and they're not afraid to die. Just, if you think I'm exaggerating, just watch all 6 seasons of Narcos and the 3 seasons of Narcos, 3 seasons of Narcos, 3 seasons of Narcos Mexico on Netflix, okay? These people have no fear of death. It's a unique quality of the Latin American, and I don't know why they have no fear of death. They certainly don't seem to demonstrate a consciousness that is in, living simultaneously in the body and outside of the body. They're just not going to take any shit.
It's the mustaches.
Already so conditioned to being goose-stepped. I mean, it's been that, right back to the emperors, whether it's Japan or China, and they're never going to be a free people. I don't think they want to be a free people, okay? And so...
Well, look, the Japanese have freedom of speech. They had a constitution that was modeled very much on the US implanted after the Second World War. They're just very... Well, they're high IQ, high conformity, and it's how much of that is nature versus nurture, and the thing to keep in mind is the cultures here go back thousands of years, like pre-biblical, right? They've just got a different way of perceiving the world. And to, the average Westerner, it may look stifling, and it can be. But, it's something they evolved into, right? And a lot of them don't mind it. You can... It's like India, right? There's people that just live on the streets there. That's just their thing, right? I'd be dead in a couple of days.
Yeah, another very difficult people to control, the Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the most of the resources now are targeted on the Western mindset, specifically the white Christian countries, and
I wonder if that's because the white Christians are more programmable.
No, I think it's because they're less programmable. Okay, and especially the United States, and they have to take that country down because it's the only country that ever really broke the hierarchical systems that have governed societies, whether it be the European aristocracy or the stupid color of the dot on your forehead in India or all the other shit that goes on. Okay, now Latin America doesn't have any of that crap either, but the reason Latin America is so free is the vast majority of the people have not left the land, okay? Now, there's massive cities. There's like 22, 24 million people in Mexico City, but when you get down into like Central America, like Guatemala, and this is how they're going after these countries, and Venezuela is the model. So they sucked everybody into the oil industry, then took the job, and then while they were working the oil industry, they bought up all the farmland in Venezuela. Then they collapse the oil industry, and the people go back to live their traditional lives, and there's no land left for them. That's why there's so much chaos there. These people are very difficult to control because all of the things that you need to control people, like controlling the food supply, the water, and all of that stuff. Like in Costa Rica, everybody I know has their own water. Like where I live in this province, okay, everybody has their own water. They get it from a mountain stream. They get it, I can walk out right now. Well, not now because it's nighttime, but I can go fruit picking tomorrow. I can go to the apple tree and I can get like 5 kilograms of apples and make applesauce. I could literally forage here for the rest of my life and not starve. Probably gain
But
weight.
didn't
okay?
Costa Rica have like pretty severe Pfifer mandates? From my understanding.
Michelle
In Costa Rica.
Pfifer mandates there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The last president, Alvarado, was a very good friend of Klaus Schwab's, and Costa Rica was the first country to sign up for the mandatory vaccines for children going to school. Okay, so you can't get in the school system now unless you get vaccinated. So it's bloody ridiculous. So like it's not perfect. I mean, it's not what I'm saying, but I mean, if you just it's much more difficult to control these people. And another thing I've noticed is there's not a lot of people falling over dead here. Haven't seen any soccer players die. There was one story that caught my attention about 6 months ago. It's a 43-year-old high school teacher who went on an after-school hike with an activities group at the high school, and when he got back, he fell over and he died. And it sounded exactly like the heart condition that is the byproduct of the medicine. But I think also the medicine is targeted. I think the worst batches are going out to the first world and Europe, and specifically in North America.
Yeah, there's definitely a batch issue, and there's a concerted effort, multi-level, multi-dimensional attack going on, and this is a conversation I was having with Mark Kulak, who's Tonic Live, and he wants to sort of raise awareness of in these excess deaths that we have, particularly in the young, that there's a fentanyl crisis going on.
Yeah.
And this, it's only in the US, right? And look, I know heroin junkies in multiple countries. They ain't getting fentanyl, right? They're still on the same smack and booze and whatever else that they were doing 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's none of this weaponized opiates coming in, and I would say that's it's chemical warfare and part of an asymmetric military style operation designed to weaken the United States. That's what I see. Biological, chemical warfare, silent weapons for quiet wars, and we're maybe looking at institutes within the US as being the protagonists who initiated all this. So the enemy is within almost. You could perhaps argue that there's competing interests between agencies and think tanks, etc., as they try to get their hands on resources. But dang, look, I was in the US 2 months ago, and if you told me that in the US, I traveled north to south, south to north, that I would see empty shelves in the United States. And it wasn't just one or two stores. It was every store. Well, not every store. That's Tractor Supply.
Right.
They were doing all right. But God, the supermarkets, there were empty shelves. The convenience stores, empty shelves. Service stations, all looking run down. You know, another thing that I noticed, like even the cash that I got my hands on wasn't crisp.
Old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Old bills.
Old bills, right?
Yeah, because they're pulling all the actual cash back in. That's what's going on. There is no cash. They're pulling it all back in across the world. The dollars are coming back home, and people are getting rid of them, and because they're going.
I can't take out more than $500 a day out of a bank account. That's crazy, right? Like if I go to ATM or go with whatever. I can't.
Here's a red flag for you before we get out of here because it's time to go. But BlackRock was I heard was keeping people from taking their money.
It's that porn star, right?
Yeah, they were keeping people from taking their money out. And they've been squawking quite a bit about massive disruptions in the financial system. So it's definitely time to watch out.
I think so.
Yeah.
People in the United States, you need to be on your toes because, like I say, they drag you into a war. They pull. They've run tests or simulations, I guess. They saw who the soldiers were that were resistive to receiving medical countermeasures. You ship half of those off to Europe, and or you take the problematic ones, you shift them off to Europe, and you keep the rest home for sort of crowd control. And in effect, they could just make it so that just law and order breaks down, and they hard point few bases, etc. I don't know how.
I mean, and what you're saying is they ship out everybody who denied the concoction. Everybody who didn't want to get the concoction, they're the ones going to the front lines.
Yeah.
And then the ones left over are the order takers, the people that did what they were told to do. You know, and when you're in the military, you are allowed to refuse an unlawful order. Epic Journeyman. So listen.
UCMJ.
Listen, it's time to go.
Yeah.
I gotta eat this piece of cake.
Nice. Well, the cake is a lie.
Yeah, no.
You video game fans out there, you know the reference, right? The cake is a lie. The truth is, UCMJ is right about that, and we are going to go to war with Russia. Anybody who thinks that's not going to happen is deluding themselves. I don't know why people aren't seeing that. We are absolutely that's going to happen. So,
all right, before people get
but,
triggered, before we start talking about Russia, Epic triggers people. Doc McCarran.
That's an important conversation to be had, man. Look, they're blowing up pipelines. There's no good faith party that the Russians can negotiate with. They've turned around and said that this is literally what they said just a few weeks ago. The Minsk agreement, we had no intention of honoring those. That was just us buying time.
Yeah, they're coming right out and saying it. I don't know where Epic's coming from.
I know where I'm coming from. I've been in the military contractor or in the military for most of my life. So, no, this is going to happen. I mean, I don't know why people aren't seeing it quite the way it should be, but we're hoping we can have the third party do the war for us. But it's going to come home. It's going to come home to Poland. It's going to come home to the Baltic states, and we are going to get involved. So. The sooner we just go ahead and try to put our forces in there and interject, the better it's going to be.
Dude. Look, the way out of this is for cooler heads to just get in and try to restore some peace between the parties. And
how can you have peace if the guys are invading the country? I mean, it's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not going to happen.
Well, Russia and Putin is already they're open to negotiations. They have been from the beginning.
You realize you just canceled all moral authority of America by what you just said, Epic.
Well, no. The difference is
how can there be peace when Russia is invading a country? How can there be peace when America hasn't done nothing but invade countries since
for the last 20 years?
No.
Wow. You make no sense, Epic.
Yeah, I'm not talking about America's moral authority. What I'm talking about is. This is the equivalent of Venezuela claiming Texas. Okay, so that's what this is, and so that's how the world is. That's how the world's reacting to this.
All right,
and but it's a much bigger country than Venezuela. Imagine Venezuela being Russia.
This is bigger.
It's not going to resolve itself that way. It's not going to resolve itself to Crimea's back to Ukraine. It's not going to resolve itself until all the Donbass region, all that stuff is back to Ukraine. It's not going to happen.
That isn't happening though. There's no way that Russia is going to allow more mobilization of NATO forces up to its border.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We're going to war with them. That's absolutely the fact. Look, the best $45 billion America ever spent was to degrade the Russian military, and we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it. And if it doesn't win the war,
listen,
what we're going to do? We're going to go to war with Russia. We are absolutely going to.
This is a conversation
100%.
for another time, man. Because listen, I got to get to this piece of cake.
No cake for you, Jimmy.
The cake isn't real.
The cake is a lie. The cake is not a lie. I've seen it myself.
The cake is a lie. We have to play the song.
About sums up where Epic's coming from.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to have this discussion with Epic because I come from very, very different.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's set up a conversation. Doc, you can always have Epic come on over with you and help discuss it over there, because I'm sure he'll trigger a lot of people over on your show too, because for some reason whenever Epic starts talking about Rush, people get triggered. I don't know why, but let's find out. Let's find out.
Over, Epic, we want you.
There you go. All right, listen, it's time to go.
Yeah.
It's time to go. And this is, in case you don't know who this artist is, I think you guys will appreciate this song. And maybe some ladies too. Who knows? This is Wheeler Walker Jr. And we're going to head out. Thanks for being here, Doc. Thanks for being here, Chris. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you.
Bruce McDonald, Epic Journeyman, thanks for triggering people in the last 5 minutes.
That's my gig,
Wolverines.
All right, here we go. Rock and Rio. Are you going to come
guys
on?
later.
Rock and Rio.
Thank you, guys.
Hold on. Rock and Rio, are you going to be there for Wake and Bake?
Yeah, I'll be around for that.
All right. Here comes Wheeler Walker Jr. You guys ready for this? All right. The walls are closing in on him.
These four walls are slowly closing in on me. My cellmate and I, we like to talk about our dreams. He says he's gonna get a job and turn his life around. He asks me what I want when I get out. Pussy and beer, pussy and beer. Only two things in the whole wide world that I hold dear. I swear to God, if I ever get out of here, I'm gonna head down the highway and find me some pussy and beer.
There he goes. Wheeler Walker Jr. getting all nasty with some pussy and beer. That's the name of that song.
Well, there's some nasty pussy out there, right?
I'm sure.
Take your hand off.
All right, you guys. We're going to head on out. Doc,
Adios.
thanks a million. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, great panel tonight, man. We got so many cool people with Doc and with Nano and everybody else.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Great for you all to be here.
Yeah.
So happy New Year, everybody, and let's all do it again.
Yeah, baby. All right, you guys. We'll see you later, eh?
All right, bye-bye.
Here we go. All right, there we go. We are done. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Yes.